Today, when I look around in the world, what do I see? I see footprints that man have left on the sand while walking through times. I see fruits of our ambitions, figments of our imaginations, and I ask myself, when will it end? When will it end? It is plain to see, universally this land is not bountiful as it was, simply because in his quest for success, nothing stands in man's way. All rivers run dry, soon the birds will fly, the mountains will be no longer high. And when I really think of it, I just wonder why, oh why. I see charity deplored, equal rights totally ignored, wisdom and ingenuity working in accord, simply to afford such inventions as thermonuclear warfare and environmental warfare. And I wonder now, where do we go from here? Prophets everywhere gaze upon the horizon and declare that judgment will come as the savage hands of unscrupulous men defile everything passed by. Time is running out as we eat and drink, species at the brink of being extinct. And I think no one can deny that the price of progress is high, real high. I see consciousness as great as today we live recklessly. Money make egos inflate and thereby create a turbulent state. I see a struggle between the sexes, new hang-ups and old complexes. Now the question is, right in context, what shall be next? I've already seen this world have come divided between race, color, creed and class. And some of the things the scripture predict truthfully come to pass. Soil that wouldn't bear children, making children to be a part of this growing mass. And I ask, if this is progress, how long will it last?
Yeah, Songs of the Man Black Prince. That one is called Progress. And I'm DJ Marisha, and I'm coming to you live and direct this evening from a remote location someplace around the globe. Due to some technical difficulties, we're going to be doing a local interview here with my brother here, a legend in his own rights, the man, Dr. Garfield Alexander. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Alexander to just give a quick synopsis of himself.
Quick synopsis of, quick synopsis of myself. I'm a Kittitian man, born and bred. I think the only time I've been out for extended period is when I studied in Cuba for 7 years. And I was, pretty much a deep part of my formation. I'm a fan of this program. I'm a fan of the uprightness and the adultness of the conversations here. And I'm glad to be invited once again, because I was told I was invited before and we didn't arrive. I was invited along with Dr. Woodley, who again is a great friend of mine who also studied there in Cuba. I think that's enough in terms of...
Yeah, Brother Alexander, you was invited here back, I think it was in 21-22, during the struggle of the last administration, when it was trying to get some matters resolved. And at that time too, we had some internet issues. Again, some years later, we're back to that. But nevertheless, we're going to get the opportunity to do this live. But because I know the importance of what we are dealing with, our country right now needs us more than ever. And someone sent me a clip that you did. I didn't realize that you follow me that in depth until I listened to that clip. So I am going to drop that clip and we're going to get into some conversation because it is right for us as citizens to understand that we are not here to stay. We all are just passing through. And we are enjoying St. Kitts Nevis because of those before us toil and sacrifice for us to be here. And I am asking our citizens to put their selfish behavior aside and focus on country. During the last administration, we campaigned about a lot of things that, in my view, are still happening today. And I have an issue with that. I am not here to try and change people's minds or tell people what to think. I just present the facts and let them make their own decision. So let me drop this clip, and we're going to drop a couple of other clips, but I just want to drop this clip in appreciation for you, knowing that you have been paying attention to the struggle.
DJ Marina, I don't want you guys to take your eyes off him. Remember, he's been around for some time. Let's go back to COVID and lockdowns. The gentleman came in, was locked down in quarantine, and then realized the total hypocrisy, tyranny, and oppression of the then administration during our most horriblest time. Spoke out. Not only spoke out, became an activist. And then you know what he did? Organize and centralize. And he never stopped organizing and centralizing until Timothy was gone. I don't even want to talk about the involvement he had before and the Douglas administration and the Harris. We ain't gonna talk about that. I'm just talking that during COVID, that man, both on this front, locally, and in the US, waged war against tyranny and oppression. One simple man. A DJ, as he calls himself. He never called himself an engineer or anything else. Just a DJ. Because he understands the power of voice. And not just voice, autonomous, independent, honest, transparent voice always wins in the end. So it could be persons with unlimited power and unlimited money. He somehow always becomes the David against the Goliaths. Be careful with him. Be kind to him. Watch him. Because trust me, he's going to triumph in the end. Again.
Yeah, but Alexander, when I received that clip, I was at a loss because I didn't realize that you pay so much attention to the struggle. So I'm going to give you an opportunity if you want to comment on that clip. But before we get into the conversation also, I am going to play Dwyer's commentary for yesterday, June 4th, and we'll pick up from there because that is surrounding where we'll be having a conversation this evening. Like I said, once we get these technical issues resolved, we're going to come back in full. But I just want to give the people a sense of the struggle where we are at the moment. So any comments?
Context. No, I was just saying that I agree with you that we need to provide context because what I always love to allow is for people to have an informed choice. And for them to have an informed choice, you have to give them that context so that they have that relevancy because it ain't everything that could be communicated just in words.
Correct. So let's take a listen to Dwyer Astafan commentary for yesterday, June 4th.
Greetings. Last Thursday, Prime Minister Drew informed the nation that nearly 25 million EC dollars from the proceeds of sale of the Christopher Harbour Marina was paid to a number of public institutions. He said that the funds are going straight back into our institutions, settling long-standing debts and restoring financial order that had been lost under previous leadership. He gave some detail. He said that 4.5 million EC would go to Social Security, 2.4 million to SCELEC, 5.7 million to SIDF. Remember, I'm talking EC money. 2.79 million to the National Trust, 2.7 million to the National Bank, 2.9 million towards property taxes at the Inland Revenue, and 3.6 million in stamp duty. And he said that with these payments, we have brought closure and clarity. Well, with respect, closure and clarity have not reached me. There are questions which need to be answered. Firstly, the 4.5 million to Social Security. Is that the total amount owed to Social Security? If not, what is the total? Why was the company allowed to run up this debt for all of these years and not prosecuted? Was it being protected? If so, by whom? And if so, isn't now the best time to expose and shut down these protectors? Remember, there are few acts that can be more reprehensible than withholding employee payments into the Social Security scheme, or employer for that matter, because both contribute to the sustainment of Social Security, which is the backbone of our economy and society. $5 million, almost. Is that all, or is there more to come? How will it come? When will it come? This is bold evidence that the persons who led this country in the past, while they so deeply and passionately proclaimed their love and affection for you and boasted of their great leadership, they were not good and worthy shepherds of the flock. They were not good and worthy caretakers of your affairs. And if any of you out there with this information and more to come in this commentary and from other sources, if any of you still choose blindness over sight and the darkness over light, God bless us all. These leaders of the past must never again be given the opportunity to hold high positions of public trust in this country. Second, we also need to know whether the payments to the other institutions will clear KHT of all its indebtedness to them. And if not, how much money is still owed? The Prime Minister spoke of monies settling debts, but he also said that EC $2.9 million were paid towards tax arrears. He used the word towards. And for me, towards means payment in part, not payment in full. And if I'm correct, then let me ask this. How much do they still owe in taxes? And why have they been allowed to owe so much and for so long? We need clarity. Clarity comes before closure. If our leaders answer these questions to the people of this land, if they provide the answers to you, then they will be thereby demonstrating their loyalty to you as well as their commitment to good governance and transparency and their worthiness to lead. If they choose otherwise, then I will let you finish the sentence. If they choose otherwise, our present leaders have to choose. The former leaders have in the minds of all fair-minded, reasonable and objective thinkers in this country disqualified themselves. Dr. Drew and his team need to redeem lost faith and to gain new faith. This is an inflection moment for them and for all of us. Bradshaw warned us, 60 years ago, warned us. He wanted the Southeast Peninsula to be developed, but not at the cost of the dignity and patrimony of our people. Now, in case you all did not know, these massive debts that we are talking about are not the entirety of the indebtedness of that development to this country. A ton load of money is also owed to the private sector, and the private sector creditors should have been included in the considerations of the government to ensure that they get some protection and they get some of their money back, rather than now having to go and sue, spend time and money, or maybe alternatively just to write off the debt. Imagine how much that money, properly paid and in a timely manner, could have done to the companies, to their workers, to the consumers, to the entire economy. Think of the loss to all of us as a result of that large indebtedness by the Christoph Harbour developer to the private sector of this country. Governments are supposed to protect people and businesses, protect us all, protect and promote. Third, regarding the 5.7 million, which Dr. Drew says was paid to the SIDF. What was that payment for? Let me take you back to the 11th day of November 2013, almost 12 years ago. On that day, the SIDF loaned 16 million US dollars to Christoph Harbour Lending Company, which is one of the companies in the Christoph Harbour setup. There's no trace of that company on the company's register today. I don't know if it has been wound up. The first bad thing about that loan agreement, and copies can be made available, was that it was subject to US federal arbitration law and not the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now let me ask you this. If there was to be arbitration under that agreement, under US law, in the United States, who do you think the arbitration would tilt towards? The Christoph Harbour people who are from South Carolina, or the SIDF from Little St. Kitts Nevis? And you cannot even begin to imagine the financial cost that such arbitration would be to the SIDF. Arbitration could have been done in St. Kitts. As a matter of fact, this loan should never have been made. It gets worse, you know. The loan was secured by a promissory note, not by a mortgage. And what do you think the purpose of the loan was? The purpose of the loan was, one, for the SIDF to provide 16 million US dollars to Christoph Harbour Lending Company, which would in turn lend money to KHT Land Holdings Limited. So SIDF lends to Christoph Harbour Lending Company, which lends to an affiliate, KHT Land Holding Company. You believe this? You can't make this stuff up. And KHT now would use the SIDF money, our 16 million US dollars, to pay off a mortgage loan it had to the Bank of America in the United States. You can't make this stuff up. The other purpose was that the rest of the loan from Christoph Harbour Lending to KHT Holdings would be made by KHT to acquire all of the equity interests in companies comprising Christoph Harbour Development. As I said, there's no trace of Christoph Harbour Lending Company in the Financial Services Regulatory Commission records, as far as I am aware. I'm not ascribing anything untoward or anything. I'm just telling you what our investigation has revealed. With regard to that, nothing. We know who owned KHT Holdings. I wonder if in that loan from Christoph Harbour Lending Company to KHT Holdings, if any interest was involved. Can you think of anything more outrageous and disrespectful towards the people of this country than a setup like that? Can you think of a worse decision that could have been made at that time? Why is the term sellout ringing in my ears? Later on, SIDF owned 30% of KHT Holdings. I don't know if the 16 million US was paid off and the equity returned by SIDF to KHT. So I'm asking, was the 5.7 million SIDF's share of the net proceeds of sale? If not, what was it? And does KHT owe SIDF any more money? If so, how much? It's ours. And our Prime Minister said that 2.79 million was paid to the National Trust. We know the National Trust owns the SIDF. So we must also ask, what was that $2.79 million paid for? And is any more money owing to the trust company? How can we have clarity and closure when we don't know these things? Fourth, the Prime Minister said that $3.6 million was paid to the Inland Revenue Department for stamp duty. This raises some questions. Exactly what was sold by Christoph Harbour to Safe Harbour Marinas? Two, given the uniqueness of this transaction and the significance to the nation and the probability that there is nobody in St. Kitts Nevis with the expertise to properly value the asset that was sold, did government engage the services of an independent expert outside of the country to do the valuation? I would be willing to wager that the answer is no. Did the government in this transaction choose unwisely to go along with the declared sale price? Or maybe a little adjustment on the land side of the deal because there's nobody here possessed with the skills and expertise to do valuations of the dock side? Did the people of St. Kitts and Nevis lose out in terms of stamp duty? Did the government drop the ball on this? I'm asking, and I'm asking because there is no clarity. What was the actual sale price? Don't tell me about confidentiality, because confidentiality cannot trump the public interest. This is too vital a matter for the people of this country, for them to be kept in the dark. So closure and clarity have not arrived yet. I spoke with a few unbiased and experienced persons, And they told me that to build the dockside infrastructure at Christopher Harbour, just the docks and related infrastructure, would have cost more than 36 million EC dollars, even back then. And then, of course, there are the buildings and the land and so on. Many questions remain unanswered, and we are far from clarity and closure. And as a citizen of this land, I'm claiming my right to the answers. I don't want to hear about any Freedom of Information Act. I don't trust that act. And in this vein, I call on the people of this country, whether you're political or not, whatever side you pick or not, pick your country first, side later. I call on the people of this country and the media of this country to become more assertive and vigilant and demanding. We have been far too complacent, far too easily pleased and fooled, far too easily distracted, far too easily scared. And this has allowed bad leadership to prevail with bad outcomes for us. No clarity, no closure. We need to hear more. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Alexander. That is a commentary from Dwyer Astafan for yesterday, 4th June. What is troubling for me, as we sit here this evening, Thursday, June 5th, it marks exactly 34 months since our general elections of 2022. Many of the things that are taking place today in our beloved federation is stuff that we campaign on under the former Team Unity administration and expected some changes for the better. But from my aspect, marking the papers, it's either has been the same similarities or worse in other situation. We have came through 3 government. I'm speaking about from the Dr. Douglas Labor administration, the Team Unity administration under Timothy Harris, and now Dr. Terence Joe. My concern here for our good people, as I said, is not to change minds, but to have the conversation, open up people's minds to what is really taking place. Because as our ancestors and some of us struggle in the sugarcane fields and otherwise, and went through the struggle for our patrimony in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, there are individuals that we elect seems to take joy in giving away whatever resources we have, whether lands, financial, otherwise, to individuals that come into the country with a briefcase and a good conversation, while our citizens continue to struggle and cannot get the help that they require. That was Dwyer's commentary that stems from a recent situation that's taking place with the Christopher Harbour. But I would like to take us back to the prison project, the prison farm, where the Team Unity administration under Prime Minister Harris, I understand, gave some 5,500 shares of our CBI passports or files, which equates to some 22,000 passports, equal to 22,000 new citizens in the Federation.
Doctor, and I always say Dr. Marsha, because I respect you as a doctor. A doctor, efficient socioeconomics. I really respect you as that. Because I don't want us to, these are some wide-ranging topics, and I don't want us to skip between them without, like you say, adding some meat to the bones. Because Dwyer harped on clarity and closure. And you played 2 clips. And I think those 2 clips, we don't even need to say anything else, because one provided the closure, as in what will happen in the future, when I spoke about you, and one provided all the clarity we needed for what is happening right now in the now. Because I've heard from Sean, who was a part of the government, about the Christopher Harbour, and he highlighted 2 very significant things to me. And I won't go into them details. I'm sure they're going to come up. But I heard from Sean. I heard from Miss Gray. I heard from Libud. Thatcher's life, but who also was a part of these governments and very much involved. And even though these are persons that question why they're saying and where they're going with what they're saying, they were clear. The clarity, I could see the clarity in what they were saying. The only person that was not clear was the person that was supposed to be the clearest to me. I just needed to make that input before you go on.
Okay, thank you. And who's supposed to be the clearest person to you?
Definitely my prime minister.
Thank
Somebody
you.
from the same origins as me, who speaks the same language or spoke the same language as me. He's supposed to be the clearest to me there.
And who is your prime minister?
Dr. Terence Jew.
Thank you. Now, this is why we are where we are today. I'm going to drop a couple of clips, like I said, for content, because we're going to have a chance to do this live. But since we are doing a pre-recorded because of technical difficulties, I want the citizens of our beloved federation to understand that what we are facing today is what the election was about in 2022, is what we campaigned on. And as we listen to a few clips, you will find out that Dr. Joe seems to have a memory issue, because things that he's claiming he did not do, he did. Things he's accusing the former administration of, he knew what he went into. We campaign on them. I have the clips. I could remind him of these things if he don't have the memory. Now, following the ongoing saga, which Dwyer Astafan has been on for some months about the Christophe Harbour, I'm going to drop two clips. I'm going to drop a clip by the Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Joe. I'm going to also drop a clip by the former Prime Minister, the Honorable, should I call him, Dr. Timothy Harris, because I look at all of them at this point in time as dishonorable to the country. What they have done to this country is dishonorable. But I'm going to drop those two clips. And then recently, within the last couple, I think it was on Tuesday, the Prime Minister had some round table, which I refer to as a square table, because our journalists in St. Kitts Nevis seems to have an issue following the conversation and investigating and bringing the facts to the people. So there's a couple of clips I'm going to play so that we could just wrap it in a bow for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, home, locally, regionally, and internationally, could understand what our issues are and why we have to continue to not only hold these governments' foot to the fire, but change the change until we get the right government. I am not here to support color or party. I am here for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and its citizens. So this is where my conversation going to go tonight, Dr. Alexander. So first clip is Prime Minister Drew's report to the country in regards to the sale of Christophe Harbour.
Fellow citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, I address you today to speak directly and transparently about a remarkable new chapter in the development of our beloved country. I refer, of course, to the official sale of the Marina assets and operations at Christophe Harbour to the world-renowned Safe Harbour Marinas LLC. This is a strategic move, a decisive correction, and a powerful turning point for St. Kitts and Nevis. What some once viewed as a symbol of mismanagement, rooted in years of political opacity under the former administration, will now become a beacon of transparency, opportunity, and international prestige under this administration. Safe Harbour Marinas is the largest marina operator in the world. With a network of over 135 marinas globally, serving more than 40,000 boat owners, Safe Harbour is bringing the platinum standard of yachting and maritime hospitality to the shores of St. Kitts and Nevis. Christophe Harbour now joins that elite family. This move was not hasty. The Darby family, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Safe Harbour Marinas engaged in detailed, respectful, and accountable negotiations, resulting in a sale that benefits the people of this country in tangible, measurable ways. Unlike the previous administration, which kept the nation in the dark about who benefited from what, this government is committed to transparency, integrity, and above all else, results. As part of this transaction, Safe Harbor Mariners will invest immediately in the expansion of the Christopher Harbor Marina by about 40%. This means more yachts, more traffic, more economic activity, starting as early as November 2025. This will bring St. Kitts and Nevis into sharper focus as a premier yachting hub in the Caribbean. Safe Harbor Mariners will also be constructing a brand new desalination plant, which will provide all the fresh water required by the marina once again, to be completed by this November. And most proudly, the marina operations will also include talent from St. Kitts and Nevis. When fully operational, the expanded facility would be able to host up to 32 mega yachts at any given point, each averaging 60 meters in length. These are vessels staffed by crews of 15 or more, plus high net worth guests. That translates into hundreds of well-paying jobs and a surge in demand for local hospitality, provisioning, transportation, and maintenance services, among other areas. This is part of our strategy to grow a sustainable blue economy. After meticulous negotiations, this government has secured direct payments of nearly 25 million Eastern Caribbean dollars from this transaction. These direct payments, which are only a part or portion of the sale price, are funds that are going straight back into our public institutions, settling long-standing debts and restoring financial order that was lost. Specifically, the sale has facilitated the payment of EC $4.5 million to Social Security Board, EC $2.4 million to SCELEC, EC $5.7 million to the Sugar Industry Diversification Fund, or SIDF, EC $2.8 million to the National Bank Trust, and EC $2.7 million directly to the National Bank. Additionally, EC $3 million has been paid toward outstanding property tax arrears, and EC $3.6 million in stamp duties. These were debts left lingering for many years. With these payments, we have brought closure and clarity. In addition to those direct payments, significant funds have been earmarked for the development of the Safe Harbor Marina at Christopher Harbor. This is what good governance looks like. As Prime Minister and as a government, I assure you that every step we take is grounded in our sustainable island state agenda, with our people at the center. Today, Christopher Harbor has written a new chapter to become a vibrant investment hub as part of our quest to become a sustainable island state. Thank you.
So that was a presentation by the Prime Minister in regards to the sale of assets at the marina. You can open your mic if you want to respond. My concern with that remark by Prime Minister Joe is that there's so much missing parts. Based on information that I received prior, based on Dwyer's commentary, there's monies owed to the SIDF, to the National Bank, amongst others. 25 million is a drop in the bucket compared to what is owed. So why is the Prime Minister trying to blindfold the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis that we are getting such a good deal while we are blind, with our eyes wide open? That is my concern with his presentation. So while you're commenting, I will pull up Timothy's response.
Okay. Doc, and I'm going to continue to call you Doc. You sent me a message after I was on groundings, sending me an invitation to come to the show. I want the audience and myself to appreciate why we made that connect, because it's important, because that in itself is context too, because we had this conversation with Sam, and again, I've heard from, I have my notes, Harris, Richards, Astafan, and Libud, all who were involved in government at some point during this whole period, because this Christoph Harbour deal started in 2005, but that date is significant, truly significant to me for a very significant reason. That's the year I got back from Cuba. That's the year all of us got back from Cuba, including Dr. Joe. And the horrors we faced from our own, I don't use the word tribe, I'm going to use it in this context for purpose, understand, from my own tribe, my own village, my own government, my own administration, rather than being welcomed back as all of us, because there were many of us. Some of us have forgotten that part. And I'm not even speaking directly to him at this point, because there are other persons involved. That's why I wanted you to speak on that, because when certain things that Sam said on that program highlighted to me the mentality that we have to eradicate, that government is continuous only when it's convenient. At other times, we can put the blame. At other times, we could promote dissension and separation and abide by colors. But when it's convenient, government is continuous, and we can't continue to do this. We can't, because I tell you, 2005 is when 7 of us, I think Nubian came back that year too, 7 doctors, 1 dentist, 1 engineer. And rather than seeing that as the greatest investment in 2005, that investment was given to a stranger with no apparent reason then and no apparent reason now, and everything cloaked in opacity and darkness. So I really wanted to highlight that, so people don't think that we just decided to have this conversation today.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to drop the Harris clip.
My fellow citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, today I speak to you, not out of partisanship, but from a position of very deep national concern. The recent public statement issued by Prime Minister Joe on the sale of Christoph Harbour's Marina assets was dressed in the language of transparency, but it was glaringly devoid of actual transparency. He proclaimed openness, yet he has refused to reveal the terms of the purchase agreement, the identity of all beneficiaries, or the concessions extended to the new owners of one of our nation's most prized coastal assets. Let me ask plainly, what are the details of the purchaser agreement? What tax breaks and incentives were promised to safe harbor marinas, and for how long? Why is the public still in the dark about the value of the sale and how the proceeds were in fact distributed? We see a litany of broken promises. Let me now remind the people of what was originally promised. In 2005, Christoph Harbour developers signed a development agreement with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. In it, they committed to generate over $17 billion in economic activity over 20 years. The agreement further included a full commitment to undertake all necessary infrastructure build-out and upgrades at their own expense, including roads, utilities, drainage, and facilities within the development. A sweeping range of government concessions, including 20 years of full customs duties, stamp tax, and consumption tax exemptions, waivers and fuel imports, yacht and marina operations, and even on food and beverage sales within the marina. Special reduced stamp tax rates as low as 1% on multi-million-dollar real estate transactions. Yet despite this incredible generosity from the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis then, what did the developers do? Rather than financing the infrastructure as promised, the developers borrowed millions from National Bank, the People's Bank, to construct the Christopher Harbour Marina and Customs House. This was in complete contradiction to the assigned commitment to self-finance the entire build-out. And now, after years of incomplete development and broken promises, what do we have? A marina and customs house financed by public borrowing. Over $49 million in arrears to the National Bank, only $2.7 million of which has been reportedly paid in the sale. Nearly $6 million owed to Skelec, and over $4.5 million owed to Social Security, both only partially paid. And perhaps most shockingly, not even a fraction of the promised US $17 billion in national economic benefit has materialized as the 20-year agreement period comes to an end in 2025. Let it be clearly stated. The Christopher Harbour 20-year customs and duty-free concession has expired or is now expiring. The US $17 billion economic impact promise has gone unfulfilled. The developers have not met the fundamental terms of their own agreement, and the people of this country have been left with the debt, the burden, and unanswered questions. Yet, the Prime Minister wants us to accept that this is a triumph of governance. He offers vague statements about a successful sale, but has yet to disclose the following pertinent information to the public: the total value of the sale, the concession terms offered to the new buyer, the outstanding amount still owed to our national institutions, or make a clear statement and how the original developer will be held accountable for defaulting on its contractual obligations. Under our PLP government, this injustice to our people will not be swept under the rug. I pledge to you that we will demand the full release of the purchaser agreement and concession terms. We will conduct a full audit of the Christopher Harbour project from inception to sale. We will vigorously pursue full repayment of any and all outstanding debts owed to public institutions. And if required, we will activate compulsory acquisition powers to recover lands, assets, or revenues due to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We must never allow foreign developers to walk away with our resources while failing to fulfill their promises. We must never allow any administration, past or present, to sign away our future in the name of foreign investment without enforcing accountability. This is not just a breach of a contract. It is a blatant breach of the public trust, and this administration is complicit in this betrayal. So I said to you, the people, stay vigilant, ask the hard questions, demand the full truth and nothing but the truth, and rest assured that the PLP government will not rest until the nation is made whole again. In the meantime, may God continue to bless us, and may God continue to bless our beloved St. Kitts and Nevis.
So, Dr. Alexander, this is very heart-wrenching for me when I listen to these conversations between Prime Minister Drew with his national address to the nation, which I think with a lot of missing information, gaslighting the citizens, giving them falsified information. And here comes the former Prime Minister, Timothy Harris, giving a more detail of what transpired, which have a little more meat on the bone. However, still missing information. But as I listen to these individuals speak, what runs chills through my body is because I know people, poor people in St. Kitts and Nevis, who was trying to run a little business, employ a few citizens to put some food on their table, who did not pay their social on time, who was brought before the court, so was put in prison. There's one guy I understand, I don't remember his name, but he have a garbage truck. I think he just died some months ago. He was in prison for not paying his social. While we have the top lawman in our country, our current AG, according to a judge, did not pay his social for his nanny on 3 occasions, which is a criminal offense. No charges. Nothing was done to this AG, but he's out there dealing with our citizens with the lesser charge, who should be charged for less, as high crime and misdemeanor. So I really have a serious problem with how these government that we elect, they come to you and they said, hold your foot to the fire. And you ask a question, you commit a crime, you commit treason. So your input, if you have any.
My only input for that is this, Marshall, that I do blame our leadership and leaders, but I was served within that same period, 2005 to 2025 now, I was served 2 bench warrants, one for tint and one for going in for parking incorrectly while trying to save somebody else's life.
Wow.
Twice, right?
As a doctor.
As a doctor. So we claim that is the leaders doing this, but who are the people who carry out these actions? Who are the people that sit by and see? A Christoph Harbour doing this for 20 years. Who are the people apart from Sean, Harris, all the leaders, because Harris is indicting himself?
Yep.
Harris is saying to you, what Dr. Drew isn't doing now, I did when I was in there for 7 years. And I also did when I was finance minister at some point. And I also did when I was in a cabinet with Dr. Douglas and either didn't know what was going on or knew what was going on. And I couldn't go against the team. So it's some serious indictments. These people are litigating themselves.
And this is the problem. This is the problem we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. That individual think you should turn your face, open your hands to get a salary or whatever handout, and let these elected members continue to mislead and sell out the country. I have an issue with that. I cannot participate in those kind of stuff. Wrong have to be wrong in any way.
In all the guys, because my notes were just taken from hearing the recordings of these past leaders, giving us the turning on the light in the room for the first time. So we have companies like Skellig, Inland Revenue Department, stamp duties. These are things that wreak fear in our lives daily, monthly. These are things that we grew up knowing that, hey, there's no way to get around this. Just the top 3 I'm calling. And then National Bank. So what the persons that work in these environments and these spaces, these are the same persons that when we go and knock on the door, we have to work 4 hours outside of them to get signed off on a loan. And they come in and they make us feel minuscule and like nothing. So how is it these persons are quitticians? Mr. Maurice, you don't understand how I feel whenever I'm reading these things, because I grew up as a poor little boy, hearing enough men that I see now in these huge places and these huge rooms with big titles coming to my school to lecture me and tell me how I should be an upstanding man. We are the men now. Because we chose these people and we continue to choose them. Because my issue, the reason why I could validate you and see you for who you are is because I've seen it happen before. It's a cycle, the same vicious cycle we see repeating, the same good men being destroyed. Because look at the forces coming against you. Look at the so-called good people that are hounding you online. The same people that championed you. When we read the Bible and we hear Jesus Christ riding on the donkey, Palm Sunday, drop down the palms. And then who they chose? They chose Barabbas. They chose Barabbas. And now we go to Roman Catholic Church, the same people who killed the same Jesus that we praise and we want to see come back. And then we go to the church and praise the way they want to praise this this man. So we have a lot of really deep conversations to have and to really be honest and transparent about. But it can't happen when the persons who we have in the high positions of public trust come to us and speak of clarity and closure. And it is far removed from being clear.
Yep.
And nothing near closure. Because how for 20 years can people be breaking all the rules that we have to abide by daily just because they're white? Just because they don't have any money. Because none of the money spent during the whole time based on the agreements made of national economic benefit, they might as well have invested in all of us. Because look at us now. Look at me holding up the vanguard when we have a DPP and a AG. Look at me. Look at you. A DJ. Weekly holding up the vanguard. We should not be the ones. And we've been stopped all along the way. Imagine me having conversations now with teachers, and they're going to tell me teachers were against me in the staff room from high school days, which explains all the issues I have now. I would come back and the chief of medical staff would be against me. And don't break me till this day. And persons were amongst me and with me being chastised, and they now have these positions at JNF, and they're doing the same. And acting as if they don't know I will speak out, when I've always been the one to speak out. No. People have forgotten the past and where they come from. And then what really reeks me is persons selling us out and then coming to us publicly for applause.
Yep.
Somehow trying to put a bow on the package and indicate to us intelligent people with Wi-Fi and internet and smartphones, because even if we're not smart, we have smartphones, and trying to tell us we should applaud when I'm a Bratcherite, and if even wasn't a Bratcherite, I'm a Garveyite. Nothing I see in any one of these contracts, nothing I hear of what's being done to the greatest institutions of my nation being allowed when it can't be allowed for a poor man. That's absolutely, it's almost like we're going backwards in time. We can't have a Labour Party because that happened on the 3 Labour parties.
Yep.
I wonder if these people know what Labour means, what it stands for, what it exactly is a union, what it exactly is workers' rights, when these people weren't even paying Social Security. That family was charging the so-called investors over at Kitchen Hill for electricity and not paying it, charging his own rate. In fact, Skellig allowed them to have 1 meter. So again, we talk about people taking advantage. People are not taking advantage of us. We are prostituting at the lowest farm, at the lowest price, less than for free, as if we're not worth anything. Our leaders are acting as if we don't worth anything. And the documents are there to prove it. None can come forth with the documents. It sickens my soul, Mr. Marisha. Sickens my soul that you have to be the champion, that I have to be the champion, that the people that we're fighting against are ourselves. People just like us who reflect us. That people in St. Kitts could see the state of the hospital and the schools and get online and get on their phones and call in, but still rejoice to hear Cartel receives $4 million. Like, disparity.
When I said that, I just have to shake my head because, I mean, while employed at the JNF, as I said, I'm an ethical person. I'm not going to come out and speak certain things. And even now, unless I am forced to, I would not say certain things. But when I say that the JNF, the lobby might be upgraded now, but anyone that is working within that institution knows that we have horse tables here in the US, around the globe, that is in better condition than that hospital. And it's not fair to the people. It's not fair to the patient. It's not fair to the staff. People knows the facts. People knows the facts. So why are they covering it up? I don't know.
We can't be the only one that feels that level of resentment. But you know what it is? Remember, I tell you, for this to continue, for us to continue calling this normal, who we call normal people have to accept it So those are, they become the defenders. Because what we are doing is remind them of how they're supposed to feel, showing them how they're supposed to act. I can't be a doctor working at an institution and don't empathize to the level where I could understand I could end up being a patient.
Correct.
That the limitations I see and find excuses for could one day be my limitations. Even in the glory days of JNF, let me say this. We ask for, what we call this? We see the Rastas, some of the so-called Rastas, fighting for a monument for the Buckley's riot. And I don't think they understand our monuments don't have to be statues. That's something we imported from Europe. Our monuments are our institutions. Jan France, if people understand the magnanimity of that man, they would understand, and the humbleness, and see the home that he lived in, would understand how our ministers should carry themselves. We named that institution after him while he was living. No one had a problem with it because people understood what he brought to the table from even before adult suffrage. Before that, we had another institution that was built by us, a resident governor who was empathizing again. You see the word empathy? Empathizing again. And we built not only just a hospital, green lands by extension, was to house all the brand new civil service that Batcher was building. Bastille was only encompassed between the Gut and Sandown Road. So all these areas of McKnight and Newtown were persons forcing to get a piece of the slice of Bastille, because that was the limits of Bastille. They're now thriving communities. So I want us to stop count on just politicians and leaders alone. People made it on their very own without social structures. So now that we have social structures, we can make it on our own. So I don't want us to think that it's to usher another government out, to usher back in, because we see how easily we can be fooled. Because people can be tested with leadership. We have to pick leaders already. So Sam had an issue with me saying that I cannot be led by somebody who hasn't captained a team, somebody who hasn't failed at the business, somebody who hasn't tried entrepreneurship at some point. I can't have somebody who's coming out of 7 years of school and TDC and Hartsford as placed as my boss, leading me. I can't just decide I'm going to vote for somebody that the party elected because it's convenient to them. We should be able to decide who are our leaders, and we have leaders in every home. All of us grew up with leadership mothers. Very few grew up with fathers that were leadership capability, because they are the same men that are failing us now. If all of us come from homes where we saw mothers lead, from churches where we saw mothers do everything in the background, from parties where we saw mothers do everything in the background, why are we electing men? Or why the majority of leaders are men? So we need to look at our decisions and the choices made by our dead ancestors and start being the new ancestors, start thinking differently. Our systems have to be different. We have to stop taking this inheritance from Britain, because that was another issue with Sam. Sam said on the program that he cannot blame colonization and slavery, when the very institution that made him a minister is an instrument of colonization. All our streets are named after colonizers. So when people try to forget these things or somehow make them not significant, when we inherently live in them every day, obviously the streets are named after them, our rules and regulations, the Westminster system, all these things, what are they? Come on, so somehow we have to be able to come out of the nostalgia, break out of the nostalgia, break out of the oldness, and allow the youth to thrive and lead. That leadership can no longer come from these archaic guys who weren't even able to receive and heal the trauma of the Christina. How can they deal with our modern day problems when these same leaders were busy fighting and infighting when the Christina disaster occurred?
You know, it's those conversations that you and Sam had is what really opened up my decision to reach out to you and Sam, because You made some great points, but I don't want to make anyone think I'm putting down Sam. But Sam is one of those guys from the old school that is an establishment. They're part of a party and they don't understand that that does not work anymore. This party business is not going to work because the cult life that these parties are carrying is not good for the country. And until we, the citizens, stand up and make sure that these individuals do the right thing, it's going to be the recycling of these old politicians. Nothing going to change. And it brought me to a position where you ask the question of Sam, you have done everything that you can. What else can you do? And I'm saying to you, Dr. Alexander, you have done a lot, but there's something else that you have not done that I would recommend. Offer yourself up for service. You can be much better than any of these politicians that I've seen in my lifetime. Your voice when you speak, your approach to things, I can feel your vibes. I know you will not go into any government office and do the things that these individuals that we elect are doing to our poor people. Our poor people are getting nothing, not even the shitty end of the stick we're getting. We are not getting anything. We are just used as vehicles to get there. Once they arrive,
our leaders are a reflection of us. They will never bring anything to us that I don't think we will accept. And when they realize we're not accepting it, they pull back. So a lot of what we see is us. There are a lot of persons who don't want leadership because leadership entails you taking responsibility. And even in leading, there's always going to be that conflict of that individual autonomy that is needed. Because a leader in his leadership must be able to follow as well.
Yeah.
So it's always a balance. Whereas some people see it as just like almost an exchange. He lead and I follow. It never works that way. Yeah. So, and then for us to think that everybody would have that, everybody won't. So what needs to happen is people who are like-minded, will form communities, will form villages. And that's what needs to happen. But the current status quo prevents that. It only gives us a right to vote every 5 years, and it places us in a party structure. It doesn't have to be that way. As engineers, we could come together and lobby and decide what's best for us. I can give you one example. Figure a corporation. So you don't think there could be a Molyneux corporation or St. Paul's corporation?
Oh, yeah.
Why is it that corporation is limited to that? And they get all the government funding and all the government protection because they're over in that region. They were one of the newest areas or spaces in Bastille. So with a view for the future, that was incorporated, but that could happen anywhere. Is again, because of our value systems, places like McKnight and Newtown are deemed unworthy. They're only deemed worthy when a vote is needed. And again, that is not a matter of leadership or somebody taking advantage. That's a matter of people feeling as if their value is less and accepting that treatment. So that's my issue. I can't lead a people who is willing to accept that or who feel they're worthy of that. A Rasta Virgin of mine's, I don't need to call it a warning, foreboding or prophecy. But he called me one time, Tobal, I can call his name. And this is a dread that I respect because it's only now in the fullness of time I could really understand Rastafari liberty and the layers of it. Because even in watching him, I used to critique him and judge him and ask him, like, why you went up in the hills? Because for me, you have to make that Mecca to really be a Rasta. And then even in going into Jamaica and now traveling throughout the Caribbean and seeing different iterations of Rasta, I understand that it's not even a liberty or religion or spiritualism or what it is. It's us just. Rasta is a space or expression of us being our true self. Like right now, when you asked me for this interview, I didn't have to go and get a haircut. I was just smoking a joint. I could have one online. That's how it's supposed to be because you call me for the conversation, for my fullness, for my wholeness, not to limit what I want to do, to put me into meaningfulness of that. That is how I always want to be. That is why I stay like my truest self. I wanted to be it in being my truest self. And that's what's going to gravitate people to me. But it's not to lead or to go up in these institutions. All these institutions are coming down, Mr. Marisha.
For sure. They have to. And while you're there, we're still on the topic.
It seems the words are too heavy to trying down the internet.
Yeah, I realize
but
that.
What I was saying is that we're moving from an era of belief into an era of.
Yeah, I realize that your internet is jamming on that side. So let me move into the round table.
There's a delay too.
Yeah, let's move into the round table conversation. I call it a square table with the Prime Minister on Tuesday. So let's take a listen to clip one of that version.
Sure. If you can go again to the issue of the sale of the Marina at Crystal Harbor. First of all, who invited Safe Harbor into the arrangement? Was it a government? Okay. Basically, what I'm asking is the involvement of Safe Harbor into the Crystal Harbor situation. How did they get involved? That's my first thing. Secondly, what was the sale price agreed upon between the parties, and was government involved in that negotiations to come up with that $25 million approximately? And the other part of my question is, these amounts to SCELEC, to the Social Security Board, SIDF, etc., do they represent the full amount of the debt owed by Crystal Harbor, or is there more to be paid by the operations of Crystal Harbor? Let's start then and see if we can move from there.
So let me go to the point of the debt. What happened? Yes. So as I told you before, our Crystal Harbor, we had the services of Her Excellency Special Envoy Hadia Claxton. In part of the negotiations was we would go to all of these entities and ask them, how much are you owed? We didn't tell them how much they will get. They were asked to report how much they were owed. So SCELEC has to say, this is how much we are owed. Social Security had to say, this is how much we are owed. So they said, they reported how much they are owed from their records, plus they had to give the wire information to their bank accounts. And that money went to an escrow. So once the deal is struck, that money didn't go to Crystal Harbor to come back to the government. The deal said, on striking the deal, the money goes to an escrow account that then goes to all of these entities in St. Kitts and Nevis. Because again, we wanted to make sure, because then you end up in one account and then you are fighting to get it out of that account to the government. Part of the deal. So these entities reported how much they were owed, and on that basis, the amount was paid. Right. Okay? So that is what was done. Wait.
And some clarity in what the Prime Minister just said.
Wait. Yeah, let him hear.
To what he just said.
Let us hear what he said. Uh-huh.
My follow-up is in relation to what you just said. So it's not necessarily a round, the next round.
Right.
You just mentioned that the entities will tell you how much was owed, but you still have not said whether these figures here represent the full amount of what was owed.
Mr. Bat, the entities said the full amount that they were owed, how much they were owed. Listen what I said. We did not tell them how much they're owed. We asked them, how much are you owed by Crystal Harbor? You don't have to say full amount or small amount. You say, how much are you owed? That is understood to tell me the amount that you are owed, the full amount.
For example, the 4.5 million represents the amount that Social Security said was owed.
Yes. Right. So that is what I said. It is clear. So it is clear that, remember, the entity reported how much they are owed by Christopher Harbour. I don't think the entity has to say this is the full amount. The entity cannot say I'm owed a partial amount. No, the entity will say they owe me this amount, right? And that is what they reported. So they said, Social Security said the amount that we are owed is this. Okay, and so each entity reported how much they're owed, and then the agreement is made. So if any agreement that is made with any entity, it is because the entity agreed that that is the amount that they are owed, that is owed, rather, if it's an entity. All right, so that is how that came about. So those numbers are not numbers that we tell them they would get. We ask them, how much are you owed? Once they say how much they are owed, then we do it. You introduce the word full. I don't think there's a need to ask them what is the full amount you're owed. I can just ask, how much do I owe you? And they report how much they are owed, and then that amount is agreed upon on the execution of the deal, so that you can get that money. And so all of these amounts. I know you heard all kind of numbers. I know you never heard about this, Mr. Bat. You never heard about that agreement, 2720. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever hear about it?
No, I can say I did not hear
okay,
about
good.
that.
So let me answer the others. You didn't hear about it. So it's clear. You ask me questions and I ask you a dialogue, and I let you go on and your questions. Wait. So now I'm going to answer the rest of your questions. I wanted to hear from you, because you say you never heard about it. You never heard about it because Harris hid it. He hid it from the people and he hid it from you. You did not know this. Wait, hold on. You asked about a couple other things with respect to the sale of Christopher Harbour and who made the approach. Let me tell you what is happening in the investment world. A lot of people are approaching from one direction or the other and say, look, we are interested in this property. The government has its interest. The government has its interest. Even if the government did not own 30%, any large property to be sold in St. Kitts and Nevis, with respect to our development, we can have a say. With respect, what we can't do is try to own what we don't own. That is a whole different matter. Unless you're going to go to what you call eminent domain, which you have to compensate the people for fully based on the market price and the loss projected on their land. That is a whole different argument. And so once they came forward, because we had multiple people came forward, we would investigate them and see, which one looks most credible, which one you can have that conversation. Because a lot of people come forward. That is why when you're in government, you have to be so careful in terms of who you would engage. You will never get it perfect. There are some people who would look shiny and everything checks out and it can go bad. But you at least have to make sure that you start off on a good foot. And this was a reputable company, and we started discussions in earnest to help to facilitate it because this government wants to create an environment for foreign direct investment. That is what any government should do. Create the environment for foreign direct investment, because if a country does not have foreign direct investment, it cannot survive properly in this world. Look at America, seeking to get all the foreign direct investment, and they're the largest economy in the world. They want all the investments to come to America. You hear the Saudis investing, the Qataris investing, the Emiratis investing. Well, I want them to invest here too. Why not? We have an environment for investments. They are welcome to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis. Everybody else around the world is investing. So we were intimately involved with respect to them. Even though this is a private sale. This is a private sale that was taking place, but we want to make sure that when private people come to the table, we create the enabling environment for them to be able to conduct their business, their private business, and to never ever leave our country out on a limb or not getting the best opportunity for its advancement and development. So this is a private sale that took place. However, we insisted that any debt owed must be paid. The entities must be made whole with respect. And to answer your question again, the amount that we got in terms of how much go to each entity was the amount the entity reported was owed to it. That's the bottom line. So that that is clear. Now, with respect to other aspect of it, because of where the deal is and where it is finalizing, as I said, there's more information to be had with respect to everything that is taking place. But the only reason why I have taken it up today in this manner, it is because Harris came to the people in a so-called national address. He has no standing for any national address. He's not the prime minister, and he's not the leader of the opposition. He's out of order. Things should be done in order. When I was the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, I was not the prime minister, nor the leader of the opposition. I could give a statement, or I can call it an address, but one thing I cannot do is call it a national address. Should know his place and be humble. He's in no position. He was not elected to give any national address, trying to elevate himself above what he should be. But anyway, that's another story for another time. What I want to stress, though, is that these entities were paid. We entered into discussions, as we enter into discussions with many people, making sure that what happens in St. Kitts and Nevis, the government is aware, and other aspects of the finalization and so forth will become known to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is how transparent I am. A whole deal happened in 2017, 2018. $2.1 million US passed from the SIDF to Christoph Harbour in a deal worth $25 million and a mere 35 acres of the 600 acres at least you should own, because you had 30% in there. You would lose your 30%, pay them $6.1 million and walk away and leave Christoph Harbour completely. It's giving away kind of thing. That is what it was. And so we have shut down that. The entities have gotten their money, and we own 30% of Christoph Harbour, which means when the profits coming in start to come in, we're not only going to benefit from the jobs, and which are critically important, and the taxes and so forth, and fees and so forth, we will also share in the profit. We own 30% of it. I mean, this is what you call a really good deal. So any sale to take place, we're at the table. This is private land, we know that. But we own 30%, we have 30% interest in this. So if you sell any, just make sure our 30% is in our bank account. So on the strike of the deal, our 30% go on this way, or the agreed amount. But what we agreed to is to make sure Christoph Harbour comes back. So some of that money, which we own as well, will go into open up salt flats, jobs again. All the amenities like the shops and so forth, going to open back up and so forth. Jobs again and jobs again for our people at Christoph. So Christoph Harbour now would have the life that he had before.
Dr. Alexander, as I listened to that clip painfully, the distortion in that clip and the misinformation is really heart-wrenching. Because if you listen to the Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Yu, speak about Christoph Harbour, you would think that that agreement started in 2017 and not 2005. And that is misleading the people in one aspect. And then in another area, where he's challenging Timothy Harris of making a national address, and he would have never done that. In fact, in 2022, when he was elected leader of the Labour Party, he did give a national address. He was not even elected into any office in government or any place. He was just the leader of the Labour Party. And I'm going to drop that clip and then give you an opportunity to respond, because we need to bring the facts to the people, content. And I am really tired. I am at my last with this Prime Minister just continue to try to mislead the people. Here is Prime Minister Joe making a presentation as he dubbed National Address of 2022. Yes, it's going to start now.
Fellow citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, at home and in the diaspora, our day of liberation has finally been announced. After delaying the inevitable, the outgoing Prime Minister has revealed the polling day, our Liberation Day. My brothers and sisters, we are now at the threshold of ending this failed 7-year experiment, ending these 7 years of scandals, corruption, and greed, ending these 7 years of suppression and oppression of our people. Our liberation moment is near, but it will require each of us, every comrade and every patriot of our beloved country, to take a stand in the fight for the very soul of our country and vote for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party on Election Day. Over the last 2 months, our nation has had a front row seat and made the front pages of news across the region and internationally, as the embarrassing spectacles taking place between the warring factions of what was then the Unity Concoction. Our hearts bled as accusation and counter-accusations of corruption, greed, and incompetence were callously thrown back and forth, while important matters of state, governance, and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis were neglected and abandoned. But hope springs eternal in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and together we can ensure that the year 2022 goes down in history as the year the true patriots of our country took a stand and drew a red line in the sand to say, this far and no further. Enough is enough. The time has come for the tragic story of a nation in decline to come an end. The time has come for our people to choose a better way with St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. You have the power to bring about the change you seek, need, and desire, to transform our federation into one of the best places to live, work, and retire. Never forget your power. On Election Day, with just a neat X on the ballot paper, you can usher in a new day and a better way that will take our country to a higher level of access, a higher level of equity, a higher level of opportunity, a higher standard of living, a higher quality of life. Today, as we stand on the threshold of new elections, just 2 years after the last one, I invite you to choose the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. We know what it takes to build a strong, successful, diversified, climate-smart, and innovative economy. We know how to educate our people. We know how to manage the country's finances well. We know how to encourage business and enterprise. We know how to modernize and make the hard choices to do it. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, in pursuit of its motto, for the good that we can do, will always be the people's voice in Parliament, and we will pursue one vision with a truly unified and dynamic team in Cabinet. With our electric mix of youth and experienced men and women, with a range of professional skills, we will lead with competence, empathy, compassion, integrity, adaptability, and resourcefulness that will always ensure that whether in good times or in bad times, our great country will always grow from strength to strength. Soon and very soon, our eyes will see the glory of a joyous daybreak that we must ensure will never again be eclipsed by corruption, greed, and misconduct. I am counting on all of you to hold us accountable. I intend for integrity in public life to be the hallmark of my administration. Our people deserve nothing less. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will fight tooth and nail to ensure that the upcoming general elections are conducted in a manner that is free and fair and free from fear. We call on Mr. Elvin Bailey, the Supervisor of Elections, the Honorable Vincent Byron, Attorney General, and the Electoral Commission to ensure that the business of the Electoral Office is conducted in accordance with the principles of impartiality and fairness and in full compliance with the laws and procedures of St. Kitts and Nevis. We call on every citizen and resident, every patriot to join us in this fight.
We call on our civil servants working in our electoral office and our police and defense force to take a stand for what is right and fair, and not to allow themselves to be compromised and coerced into improper and illegal conduct. We must demand that international election observers, CARICOM, Commonwealth, and the OAS be invited in to observe our elections. Brothers and sisters, your vote is powerful. Every vote represents a vote for those who deserve proper health care, those who deserve affordable homes, those who deserve social support, and those who deserve assistance in furthering their education. Every vote counts. Your vote counts. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party is the best and only option for sound transformational leadership in our great federation. There is simply no other choice for representation that you can trust but a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party-led government. Our party welcomes people from all walks of life and across the political divide to join us in securing a better future for ourselves and our future generations. The Labour Party umbrella is wide and it is large. So today, I'm asking you to mobilize support for this team. I would like all of them to join me in cabinet to take our country onward and upward. I want you to vote for Dr. Jeffrey Hanley in constituency number 1. Vote for Marsha Henderson in constituency number 2. Vote for Conwys Maynard in constituency number 3. Vote for Samuel Duggins in constituency number 4. Vote for His Excellency Kenneth Douglas in constituency number 5. Vote for the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas in constituency number 6. Vote for Leon Nathan-Nelson in constituency number 7. And vote for yours truly, Dr. Terence Drew, in constituency number 8. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party reaffirms its strong commitment to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. After Election Day, it will be a new day and a better way with the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our beautiful federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and all our people.
So, Doctor, that was a national address by the now Prime Minister, who claimed that Timothy Harris is out of line.
Doc, I just happened to be listening in, and I was coming from Tabo, coming from Baizook, right? And in listening, because I wasn't able to see him, in listening, it took me back to you and the tears you shed, because it was extremely painful for me to hear. Yeah, because this is a guy, you know, from first farm, junior high, Vietnam. I know the brilliance of the guy, and I know he's well read, and I know he was a part of the Nation of Islam. I could remember all the guys that were involved in that. So he would know of Malcolm X. Yeah. He would know of the African presidents that came before that fight the fight. Yeah, he know of Garvey, and he definitely know of Bratcher and the plantocracy. So it was extremely painful for me to hear him. Yeah, Bob and Weave, cause he was a boxer too. He trained with Brother Bumpy down the gut.
Okay.
I know this man is street. So when I backed him, it's because he had me with them same words. Yeah, he inspired me. So even I could even segue into your plea now, because I could have never written this narrative or this book. What I'm seeing now, I could have never do that. So it proves to me what Tobel told me since then, that system is not for us. It's not of us. It changes us. You go in there and you have to win the election, and it becomes a popularity contest, and it becomes a team sport where you don't. You're a captain, so you go down with your team, and your team goes down with you. So rather than the focus being the people and the masses and the more, it's really the prophet and a few 1%ers, because all these guys have handlers. The person I was listening to has a handler. That's a person that can't say certain things. Up to now, I have from what he said, I can't gather whether he was even in the negotiations. The only person name he mentioned was Sadia Claxton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somebody he knew. We all know him. He, myself, yeah, we know her from school, and I know the brilliance of her too. And she's Kittian to the core. Dr. Claxton's daughter. So I can't imagine her in a room making that kind of negotiation, because he didn't mention the AG. He didn't mention a team. He didn't mention a team from cabinet, a team of ministers that went to this high-level negotiations. And he kept moving, bobbing and weaving between it's private and government has authority and what government could do, but he has not clearly stated what government do, what they were offered. None of the questions offered by all the other guys. The clarity that they were seeking was never, we never arrived at that clarity even after a second time. In fact, even without seeing him, he sounded disheveled, and he's always prim and proper. And it just made me say this, and as I said, I'm going to be as transparent as clear today. It gave me the impression of somebody whose mask was slipping. And I could never think of him in that remark. This is somebody I love. Well, I love Terrence Michael Drew. I don't know who is there now, or what entity we are seeing now, who has cloned him, who are his handlers, or who is this other person. But that is not the brilliant, fiery Terrence Michael Drew that I know, unless I was fooled.
Well, that's not the person I met. And it's very painful for me, not for me personally, but for what I unleash to the country. Because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is not the person that I met during the campaign, is not the person that I supported. So this country is in a mess. Putting it simple.
Marisha, it's not in a mess. What happened is that we're seeing that because, you know what happened? One, time is not linear. Time spills out, just like if I throw a glass of water here, depending on the grain, time spills out. So what happened, right? We're living in a consciousness where we see him for who he is. And we not only see him for who he is, we see the cycle that's been repeated over the time. I've spoken to guys like Kuba Assegai. So when Kuba Assegai told me of CIA and CIA involvement, it's only now in the fullness of time, reading of Jamaica, seeing the classified information coming out now, understand all the elections during that period from 79 to 80 were affected. They needed to be affected because the whole Caribbean was leaning socialist. We had just come out of Grenada. Grenada's revolution was clearly tied to here. The guy was just here. Peter Jenkins mentioned that in a show where we interviewed him, where he said, where they told him these are rumors going around, and he said, I'm safe. And it was his own bodyguard. And we have people here who involved the back and forth from here, and persons who were just going after Cuba. So I've seen and heard and listened and see the movements of men like Azzy Liebert, Kuba Assegai, Moore, even in some regards, Clarence Fitzroy Bryant, even though, Kuba wasn't on that beat at all. But I'm saying there's so much things that happen that we don't know of, that are influencing now. So imagine with these guys that have been around since then, still not declassifying the files. We still don't know why Powell was thrown out of Simmons' government. We still don't understand because, again, Sam isn't being clear. I'm using the words again. There's no clarity and closure on what really happened between Sam and Harris and why Dougie. Yeah, there's so much ambiguity and cloudiness in such a small nation where we know rumors exist for generations. So how is it we haven't received clarity? Because it's still going on. Because that was my big doubt when I was almost convinced about Dougie during that election. Because that's when I really, again, my social consciousness was widening and I was keen in on politics. And in some regards, already looking to make me impact on either as a policy and a decision maker. I thought that was the only way to get it happen. And again, I started telling you the story. Tobal stopped me and I had a meeting. It wasn't even a conversation. He had a meeting with me, say, from the time you're going in. These are not his exact words. It's almost like you'd be sullied. That the expectations, and I've seen that Nubian was in that year with us. I've seen him try with PLP and he's now back with Pam. But the thing about Nubian that surprises me above all the others, because Najan was from my year to a Najan ran in Sandy Point. In fact, Najan and myself were placed in the DMO positions out of the whole group of us. And I see all them iterations, no, all those were machinations, all those were political machinations that you don't know you were a part of. But now I could see clearly. So I've seen the repetitions and how they guide young men like myself into these rooms and offer them the world. Because again, I could make this admission too, because I have nothing to hide. Twice I met with Dr. Douglas. He asked me to be a senator. And the 2 times I turned it down. So I'm not somebody unfamiliar to power and the lure of power. And the hope that power is the only way. My only thing now is to be the best guy I feel I could be. In so doing, I'll be a better citizen, a better doctor, a better father, and I serve as the example, just as you are serving as the example for me. You ain't have to run politics for me to see the uprightness in you, Dr. Marisha. The same uprightness I saw in Cuba, but the consciousness wasn't wide enough to really accept some of the things that you were telling me, for me to understand that those big things could be happening in this small pond. Because we have some sharks in this pond. I don't even want to call them human monsters, because to call them monsters is to agree that everybody else is a victim and we're not victims. We are lured in by these men because we start to believe in them, because that's what happened. I wholly and solely believe that this Rasta baby was the future. It was the answer to all our prayers. He was upright. And I haven't seen him done anything that it's not upright, but I've seen him avoid and be obscure and be ambiguous. And that does not align with uprightness. That don't align with Rastafari, which is the example him and I saw. Well, I know he live in it and he go from it, but I saw the example. So even now, I could chastise the Rastas now. Because when they want to align with the age and want to be in so many meetings and want to politicize, no, the Rasta is an example. No Rasta ever hold me by my hand and say, come let me teach you. Come let me show this. I shy it in them. The fire, the blaze, the example. Because when everybody wanted, well, my mother was on me every week to clean off the nasty hair and them pepper green and all them things that she would tell us that an upright man on the road showing me no. That's your trueness coming through, and they're gonna walk with me here like this. And I grew up in a time where Rastas had a specific walk. We used to call it a bob. Mm-hmm. And in there, I didn't understand the fullness that they were teaching you. Be upright and walk poor with your head up. So again, I couldn't tell you uprightness because I came up in a St. Kitts, because people talk about that as if like goodness and core values is something strange to us or something that we have to import or somebody else to learn us. When I was growing up, I saw the respect Market Street had for just hard-working men, even in a little hobble of a house. I've gone on to see that all the advanced nations now are going back to those type of homes that we call poverty homes, homes and stilts, that prevent flooding, that allow air to come in, that withstand all the hurricanes. They've been at, from the time of colonization to now, they've been allowing us to devalue ourselves and all the things around us and the things that our ancestors have been doing for us, by us. So it's very hard to get through to certain persons now and tell them what's best for them, because they don't want what's best for them. They want what's trending. They want what makes them feel good. So how can somebody now with core attributes and thinking longevity could speak to people with short-term memories and superficialities? The only thing you could do is live by the example, so they could doubt what you say, but have to accept what you do or what you be. It ain't really about you doing, it's really about you being.
You see, the facts is something that nobody can get away from, no matter how they try to distort, right? You spoke about Douglas a while ago. And during the heat of the campaign back, I think it was in 2020, I remember, I think Premier Brantley at the time bust some news in the parliament stating that someone in the opposition was stopping the UK, London to be exact, with a watts of money heading out of the country, and the money was confiscated and whatever. And there was a back and forth, and the individual denied that that ever happened and stuff like that. And the reality is that the truth will reveal itself in due course. It will reveal itself in due course, because the facts facts. You cannot get away from the facts. The facts are what they are, right? My concern is that our citizens are so easily brainwashed, like I said, by party politics that they can't even see, they don't want to see the harm that is being done to themselves and the country. I accepted Dr. Drew as an honest, upfront person, like you just explained. That is what I signed him when I met him. And though I got warnings from other people, I don't judge people by what people say. Just as I want you to see me, for yourself, I do the same. I have the experience now where I can speak about the gentleman that he naturally not capable of telling the truth. And as a prime minister, what he have done to this country is very sad. The damage that has been done by this prime minister, and a lot was done under the former administration and under Douglas. By far, he's the worst prime minister I have seen in my short time in the last 3 years. I'm not even going to go with our first prime minister, Kennedy Simmons, because the history behind that and what was taking place, I was still a young boy, never really pay attention to the politics. But from Dr. Douglas to Harris, now Dr. Drew is the worst. And I would have never, like you said, I would have never believed we would be where we are today. The information that I run into and the people, and it's very clear now. If we really look at the actions, you can see what people are by their actions. And it's unfortunate. I have 2 more clips I need to play from that round table because,
let me just say this before you start to, again, a lot of people are benefiting from the corruption because one of the chief assessments, even in the civil service, is that, again, I like to go back to the historicity of it. The civil service was created by the British Empire to extract, whether it be human resource, taxes, whatever, to make sure that they could efficiently tax. What should have happened is when, again, and Batcher was trying this, but again, he died early before that could have happened. He was structuring what would be our civil service, but he in himself had an obsession with the Brits. You could see it in the way he dressed and the way he carried himself. But again, he's only a man of his environment. At that time, if you didn't walk a certain way and dress a certain way, you would not get the respect, not even of your own people. So I understand that. So he had a certain belief in those institutions. What has happened afterward is that all the leaders after that, including Simmons, they have an obsession with the institution. We're still living in the imagination of Billy Herbert. If all our leaders come and the only focus they could have is CBI profits and foreign direct investment, because all this says to us is the recurrent voice of, we are not enough. We always have to seek outwards. We always have to be measured by our outwards. So that's why there's an inherent fear of people stopping our children from going to university, because despite the advances made by Clarence Fitzroy Brand, everybody has dropped the ball since that and focus on CBI. And despite the focus on CBI, we don't see any business acumen being increased even in that area. There's still subventions. We're still allowing people to handle us and for us to be not even middlemen, but some are 3 and 4 lanes down the line with obscene contracts. Why are some of the most intelligent men in St. Kitts with the most degrees signing off on these contracts? Why are some of the most intelligent and most degreed persons in the institutions only policing the poor? But these heavy, indomitable contracts could pass on with no kind of justice, no kind of fairness, no kind of balance. So it's not just leadership, it's all the people in between who somehow believe that corruption won't end up biting them in the butt, won't end up effing with them somewhere along the line. That they're somehow living in a dream that millions could pass out of the country and then still get on the phone and complain. That's what happened to people. A lot of the complainers, a lot of the persons calling you and texting you are part of the problem. Yeah.
For sure. You know, it's funny that you said that. I reflect as you speak about the status quo. I'm not sure whether it was inauguration, but at some point early in the Prime Minister's one of his speeches, he spoke about done away with the monarchy and going republic for the federation, which will be closer than further. Since then, I have not heard much about it, but I heard him speaking some time back about meeting with the king in his living room or in his front room and asking for some anointment for members of our federation. And I just laughed to myself because he's very inconsistent with his messaging. I guess, like you said, he has a handler or he don't remember. He lies that much that he don't remember his lies. But it's really sad. This is the people that we have put in office. And
DJ Marishan, again, what is strange is that just the term alone, Prime Minister. Like even, and I said this even when, well, who was it? Is Tatolo? BVI, somewhere in the BVI when they had the premiere caught up in that scandal.
Yeah.
Right? And it was pure and utter greed because the agents weren't after him. It's only when they contacted him, they were like, we could get the Prime Minister to sign off on this. And then he got so involved that he jumped on the plane and went. They went up on, on a tourism. It was, you know, a tourism ministers meeting, man, where they fight against each other. The cruise industry causes this inviting them and they get the best the boat was. So it's on each and every end from since 80 till now. We just have persons who've just been selling us out and asking for applause. Wow.
It's really unfortunate. I'm going to drop 2 more clips and then we're going to give you an opportunity to have your comments on them. I'm going to drop a couple of ads. I'm going to ask you for your closing and call it a night because, as I said before, I want to apologize to you and the viewers who will view this after for the technical difficulties we've been having. But I definitely think it was very important that while my engineers are working on the issues, that you and I have this conversation in the meantime, that people will understand that we are doing our best to save our country. As I say all the time, there's 11 in parliament, 6 in the government, 5 in opposition, but there are 50,000+ of us, 30 whatever thousands of people, 20 whatever thousand voters. And when the time is right, we have to correct our mistakes. Definitely have to correct our mistakes. Never again this government should see those hallowed halls of government.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister.
Yes.
Sean Dixon, St. Kitts News Observer. The Caribbean Infrastructure Development Corporation is advertising as the approved public benefactor of the St. Kitts Airport Expansion Project. However, no official communication has been made to the public about this partnership. Could you clarify the nature of the relationship with the government and CIDC, and the total cost of the airport expansion, the value or percentage of shares offered under the CBI program, and how this arrangement differs from the prison project that you previously opposed. Also, going back to the Marina sale, were there any concessions granted to Safe Harbor? And can your administration make the full details of the sale agreement public and further details including tax breaks or incentives if they were extended to Safe Harbor?
Right. So listen to the question you asked. I know somebody sent that question because it's heavily loaded, I can tell you. And that's okay if they sent the question for you to ask. You would know that Christopher Harbour comes under a special agreement that preceded me, of course, that was in fact intact under the Harris administration. As a matter of fact, Harris not only kept it in place, Harris was giving Christopher Harbour totally back to Derby, which is a double whammy, without the pain of all the things that I spoke about. All of the tax concessions, all of those, that arrangement was under the original agreement that was made with
the Darby family. And that is bound by law. So if any concessions, all of that preceded me. It happened on the original agreement, and it happened on the Harris administration. So I would ask Harris this question: did you see it? Of course he saw it. But I would say that that is the agreement that governs the tax breaks and the concessions and so forth. That is still in place. The original agreement with the Christopher Harbour agreement still in place, right? So this did not have to do. Once you go into Christopher Harbour, because of the overall agreement with the area, these things come with it. So it's nothing that I have to do with respect to that, right? Good. Now, with respect to CIDC, now CIDC has what you call just the planning stage of the airport. The planning stage of the airport, now you heard about it because it would have been spoken about. I think they got a very limited number of shares to do the plan and the structuring of the airport. It is not at this stage it is not to do the whole of the airport. So there's a difference between that and the prison project. The prison project had 5,500 shares, 5,500, which will can equate up to 25,000. But this in the airport is about 60-something shares. 60-something at this stage, 60-something, just for the feasibility study and stuff, nothing to do with the construction of the airport itself, which is a different matter, right? So that is where that is at this particular time with it. So it's different to the prison project. I can tell you, and everybody has heard about the prison project and the deal with the prison project. Now, this is the difference between he and I, the difference between he and me, right? In this sense, when he was asked about the prison project, he said it has nothing to do with St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a private contract, and he cannot give the numbers because it's industry secret. He told you all that. Bat, you remember that? I'm sure, Bat, you remember that one. He said that. If you go back, you'll see that he said that. He didn't want to give the information. But you asked me the information today, and I share it with you. It's for the feasibility, the planning area, and I think they got just a limited number of shares. I got to check the number, but it's not a lot of shares. It's a limited number for that first part. And as I've said, I'll continue to be transparent. Where you don't have enough information, you ask for it, and it will be shared with you once it involves the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is where we are with it.
Now, Dr. Garfield, again, that clip, again, listening to the Prime Minister is painful because he's trying to get the journalist, Mr. Glenn Barth, to acknowledge that he was so open and upfront with whatever information. It actually took a RICO lawsuit by Philip Martinez of MSR Media to get some answers about the prison project and the shares that were sold in order for them to come, and they still didn't come clean. And the Prime Minister seems to forget that on numerous occasions at those round tables, which I call square tables, those press conferences, whenever journalists were asking him about how many passports sold, what are the status, he would always refer them to the then head of CIU. I think Mikey Martin was the person at the time. Then he started referring them to Mr. Blanchett. He have never came with a straight answer. I can recall when Mr. Martinez decided to do his podcast, and a journalist asked the Prime Minister if he have a response to what Mr. Martinez said on his podcast the previous evening. The Prime Minister have yet to answer that journalist. His response was, do you know who that man is? Did you do a background check? He's a convicted fraudster. This is what the line he went down. He has yet to answer the question. Now, thanks to Philip Martinez and the MSR team for their lawsuits in St. Kitts and in the US. The complaint from the MSR team was the underselling of the passport, which the Prime Minister knew prior to getting into office. He knew while he was in office and tried to tell the people of St. Kitts and Nevis nothing goes so. And what happened next was, when they had no choice but to admit, based on documentation that the MSR media team provided in the court in the lawsuit in St. Kitts, they used that information. 185, I understand, files that was presented in court. They used those files to investigate, and they themselves released news stating that they investigate X. And as a result of those investigations, I think some 13 passport was recalled, our citizenship was recalled, and some 32 individual paid a difference in the money they owed from the underselling, and the others are still under investigation. Now, where the problem came, apparently, during that court matter, the lawyer representing MSR Media, and by the way, it's funny, the lawyer, the firm that represented MSR Media is Damien Kelsick, Wilkin and Ferdinand. How strange is it that the AG, who was a partner of that firm, who represents the government, is being sued by his former firm? That is one of the first things that I have concern about. And Mr. Kelsick, who represents MSR, the judge apparently asked them, well, the purpose of this case that was filed was to prove that there was underselling of the citizenship by the Galaxy Group or whoever processing these passports. And the government denied it. Now the government has sent their PS to court with an affidavit acknowledging there was underselling. Now, where do they go from there? MSR have proven the point, so they agreed to withdraw their case, providing that the government agreed to investigate all the other files. From my understanding is that the government said they don't want to put that in writing, but they acknowledge verbally that they will investigate the other cases. Well, they didn't well get out of the courtroom, and there was a big release by SKNIS and Erasmus Williams that the MSR team withdraw their case because they never had any proof, they never had any case, the government did not do anything wrong, blase, blase. Naturally, the MSR team got upset and decided to instruct their lawyer not to agree to anything without writing. You have to be in writing. The full text of it, let a judge decide on it. So that matter that was supposed to be withdrawn is still in the hands of the court, waiting for another court date. So to hear the Prime Minister come now saying that he's so open and giving information freely and whatever, when the mess that the country is in right now is because of this same Prime Minister not acknowledging the underselling that he knew prior to being elected, and after he was elected continues. The prison project over there in St. Kitts, there are many contractors out there don't have any work to do. There are many citizens don't have any work to do. I visited the prison project myself. You find between 9 to 12 Chinese, no locals up there. I heard the Prime Minister asking people to go and visit other projects. Why don't he ask them to visit the prison project? That's where people really need to pay attention to. Go up there and see what's going on up there. So My concern is that our people need to be awakened to the corruption and the bad practice, malpractice, whatever you all want to call it, that is taking place in our beloved federation. I have a final clip to play, but before I play that final clip, I'll give you an opportunity if you want to chime in and that last clip. Your mic is closed.
The clip about CIDC, that's something I heard, like, again, in St. Kitts in 2025, government business, public business. I shouldn't be first hearing it as a rumor. I shouldn't be hearing it as a rumor or when the opposition force gets wind of it. So I first have to commend Glenn Batt for asking those hard questions straight off the bat, because that's something I'm not accustomed to in St. Kitts. Because the media, and Malcolm X said this, that sometimes you don't know who the media really represents. And I saw that through COVID. Again, I'm here now to call out. I saw the Observer actually act as like Timo's poster magazine during the whole period when we needed them the most. And we'd have guys show up to meetings with NEMA and the task force and ask soft questions. I send the questions that they were sent to ask. So again, these journalists are the ones that are facing it. When they take off the journalist tag and they go to the supermarkets and they go outside, and during the lockdown, they were facing the same horrors. So again, with the power of that pen, what would make people accept that, condone that, and pretty up that like a coloring book? Our journalists. And again, when it reaches to our public, despite knowing that this can be true, to never question it. So again, I have to be very careful in who I want to lead and who I'm speaking to and what platforms I go on to, because again, a lot of persons are hearing but not listening. And even when they're listening, they're not in a position to act. You spoke of waking up. Some people want to sleep. Like I said that in a post recently, you hear me asking where are the men? Because within this game of politics, there's a lot of peacockry, and the men love it the most. The men love it the most. Men will show up as leaders and know they're not leading. Men will take titles and sit in those positions and make decisions that destroy people's lives every day. I see that in St. Kitts, from National Bank to JNF, people will get up in their titles and make people's lives horrible as a result of those titles, kind of all the rules of those institutions and be justified. And people will say, well, it's the rule. These are not just the conversation, these are the things that we have to stand up against, because I'm not looking for anybody to change a mind or sway the vote. I'm looking for them to just show up, because a lot of times when I'm asking people to stand up, asking them to stand up and be a revolutionary leader or rebel, no? I'm just asking them to call out whether or not to be wrong. But there are lots of persons in St. Kitts, and I see it every day, that get a kick, they get a hard on, they get a erection of standing on the necks of others. We see it even in, I'm going to just show it casually, our obsession with VIPs. People just want to be separated, just want to know they're separated from you. You see it in even the costumes for carnival. Even our National Bank, they give you costume loans and loans to go to New York to party. So then when we ask about, where the people's discretion and where the priorities, we have institutions pirating and running and trying to force people to make bad decisions. And then they're the first to judge.
We're in some serious times, very, very serious times. Final clip.
I'll give you this one piece of history too, because you mentioned Keswick, Wilkin, and Ferdinand. I don't sure if Ferdinand's still with them, so it might just be Keswick and Wilkin. But in 1984 and in 89, there was a party called the Keswick Wilkin Monopoly Busters.
No.
So even at that point, the people were conscious enough to understand, no, something wrong. These people were the creditors. These people owned the land. These people were the bankers of the plantocracy. These people supported the plantocracy. Now in 80, when they got political, they already had economic power. Now they have political power. Person was against that because they were conscious of what's going on. Mr. Marsha, we can continue to lead people who are not conscious. We're not aware of what's going on. I mean, just talking about the past, aware of what's going on now. Because for a prime minister, any minister, PS, we see it happen every day, to get up on ZIZ, to get on the radio and give you the impression, even on foundations, when they give you the impression that all is well, that the things that they fought against have somehow been conquered. Because that's my issue. One of my brethren call me out, ask me why I went on that show and why you're backing them up. And I see me falling two way, but I voice up Sam, and I simply told him this: I could learn from anybody. And in the places where I come from, you had to learn from people's mistakes, because some of the mistakes you couldn't make on your own. Not so much Market Street, Market Street more love, but when I moved to Night, being a stranger and somebody new to the space, I had to understand what are the realities of the streets. I know which streets to avoid, which rooms to avoid, which people to avoid. Because I had some people that weren't bad or evil, but they were bad or evil to me. And I had to be able to identify that early. And that now, why those skills that I acquired as a little boy in those places here, have become my superpower now, that I could enter a room and realize, yeah, that person ain't for me. Because sometimes, just to get a message across, I've been in meetings where I spend 4 hours. We get you all the important stuff good, and we just stuck on one thing. And I'm sure you've been in those meetings at JNF. Stuck on one nonsensical thing. Then to put up on a document that says that this was a CIA operation, that CIA actually had classes where they were trained some of the appointees the place how to mock up the system.
Yeah.
Added to that, coming from that slave and that plantation or estate, because we like to change name to make things look as if like history didn't exist. These estates are plantations. And these estates, what we used to do as workers, even up until the recent areas, we'd slack off. We'd take time cutting the cane because we know we wasn't getting paid properly. Even in St. Kitts, when I was growing up in Market Street, there are lots of cane cutters still. People like Shirley and Aki, who I see women who worked from nothing and acquired something. I would see the men of that generation drink from Thursday until Monday. Monday was the recovery day.
Yeah.
From the NOPA days tomorrow, drink. Who sold the alcohol? Who imported the alcohol? The same businesses in Bastard that are now thriving. And when you look into TDC and Hartsford, what are they thriving on? The tax exemptions and the government contracts. There's nobody in St. Kitts that is not making millions of dollars without government intervention or government operations. So this thing about private sector and people leading the way of industry, lies. I've had to study that when I was trying to rise an industry in cannabis, when I realized the fallacies and the inventions and the human constructs just in Little Bastille. I could see why people are always listening to CNN. When we listen to CNN, everybody knows everything about US politics. It's because we want to avoid Kittitian politics. It's a deflection. Because what we have to be careful of is the trauma that's being caused by this corruption in our leadership. Because it's starting to make people feel like we somehow can't lead ourselves. And we're going to do like Anguilla and the BVI and turn back to the Brits or to the US or to the Chinese. Because we feel like we feel in that capacity, and we have that capacity. We just have to elect men who lead themselves. I can be led by a man that don't lead himself. That's an indictment on me, not an indictment on him. That's an indictment on me.
Yeah.
My choice.
But you know, the funny thing is, as you speak, I laugh to myself because you speak about JNF, and at the JNF, I listen to several of them who go out and whether on the social media page or on the radio and the round tables and whatever, and they mislead the people. And Doc, the honest truth is, the improvement that can be done at the JNF is not hard. I am coming from a background of facility management. It is not hard. But when you have people in position who does not understand what it is to do repairs and operation of a facility. People are just there to push paper and carry news and whatever. It's unfortunate, but the issues in the healthcare system will not be solved under this
I'm
administration.
glad you said that, Bounce, because I didn't want to speak about this, but I'm going to speak about this. Even before Dr. Terence Drew became the leader of the combat leader, a bunch of us, not just doctors at the hospital, mainly Cuban graduates, because we have enough specialties within the area, and even in that class of 1998 to 2005, enough that we could have compiled a group along with some other persons who work within the healthcare system, and we just had a group, and that group was just concerned medical professionals and other professionals concerned about JNF, especially me. That was my only concern as a citizen, because I'm quite capable of living a life that I think will give me some longevity and making those choices. But at some point, I will get ill because I'm only human. And I had an experience where I got top level service, and that was not just because I was Gaffy, it was only because I was Dr. Woodley's good friend, nearly brother. That was the only reason. She alone allowed me to feel as if like I came off a yacht and came into JNF in a limo, because those are the persons as a doctor that I see got that kind of service. Clinicians don't get that service. Everything levels up for anybody white or rich. So that was my general concern, especially coming out of COVID, especially being at that point the clinical care coordinator for HIV, which means I don't think they had anybody in St. Kitts who was more of a virus specialist. Maybe Dr. Ferdinand, given her experience in terms of public health in relations to virus. And I saw them break every rule when it comes to virology and its spread and how you go about it. Because again, HIV has been around since the 80s. So any approach to viral eradication or treatment should mirror that, because we'd have made all the mistakes there. See them break everything. So we're concerned and we got the group together. And I did a deep dive into our healthcare system and realized the issue was our nurses and how they were being treated. Not even treated, how they are valued, even how they value themselves. So apart from this, nurses were the core of the problem, but it was just an HI problem on the whole. The fact that up there doesn't have a separate HR, problems are dealt with by one person, which at the time when I came there was Dr. Cameron Wilson. Before that, it was Dr. Fosberry, because the hospital is structured to serve and protect surgical specialists. That's why he took a surgical specialist like Dr. Woodley to break it open and to understand the intricacies, because all the men that came before designed the hospital, its operations, to suit them, to profit them. Dr. Woodley's who came and feminized it. Not feminized it, balanced it, because it was too masculine, and brought in the feminine and started to do that. So I made the decision. I said, Dr. Woodley, I don't care who comes in, whether it's PLP again, PAM, whoever, this healthcare system has to improve. So we're going to get a group together, and whoever comes in, we're going to those persons and let them know, here's the plan. In that deep dive, I realized I didn't even have to do a plan, because the people that came before us, our ancestors that came before us understood this, and JNF was built very holistically, ladies and gentlemen. Just the choice and the location alone, room for expansion, the fact that it's built on that sacred ground, all that was planned again. I saw documents that showed that Ram Chandani's wife donated private sector. Everybody came together and started to work on that hospital. The hospital was complete and holistic. So much so that even when Dr. Douglas refurbished, as he said, all he did was create an extended shell. When I was working at JNF, the generation capacity was still in the old section. The morgue was still in the old section. The kitchen and all that was still in the old section. A lot of the functionaries of the hospital was still on that old section. What he built was a shell, and then didn't upgrade the human resource. So a lot of the issues we have are core issues that need to be fixed. A hospital can be upgraded or maximized or go and because everything is pending on the laboratory. And the fact that we have 3 now private labs shows the deficiencies of the public lab. Because anything private within St. Kitts that booms and makes money is as a result of the deficiencies in the public. Because there's no public entity that should be failing. With the tax exemptions, don't have to pay Skellig, all those things that other business have to focus on. A government business does not have to focus on that. So there's no reason why in our minds and in our status quo, government is always the worst, the least paying, the less quality. That is only to drive traffic. That has created a system where it drives traffic to the private. So imagine in some instances, you're only going to another place because it's available. Mm-hmm. You would leave JNF lab and go to it because they just don't have the reagents available. The biggest lab, the longest standing lab with the most trained personnel, because no other lab in St. Kitts has that kind of level of trained personnel. And you don't have you don't have the maintenance, the cash. Nobody prioritizes it.
Resources. Yeah. And the problem there, structurally, if people don't really pay attention, they don't have to listen to the dog whistle or whatever. But structurally, the place is in a mess. Structurally. And not only structurally, there's a pandemic waiting to happen there in terms of healthcare. As I've said,
it's not happening. I wouldn't even call his name. I said, you know what? Somebody explained to me once that absolutely blew my mind because I thought I was somebody that nerdy and look into everything. They said to me, and this person is now a part of the administration. If it's one thing I have to fix at JNF, is the air condition.
Okay.
And I said, why? Why? They said to me, the heat, just that convection alone, that alone, and they went into the intricate physiologies of it. And I was like, whoa. A little while after that, a random civilian comes to me and says, Doc, I want to donate some stuff to the hospital. I want to donate some air conditions to the hospital. I said, why? See, I went to visit my wife to carry another fan because she was having some issues with that fan. And I saw a woman there struggling with the heat. And my mind went back to that. And that was 2 years after the conversation I had with this high-ranking official. 2 years after, that this person just random pushes into their pockets and decide, I just want the benefit. I can't see this happen again. The empathy. So our elected officials with access to funds, access to $4 million, access to funds for music festival, access to funds to all the things that they prioritize. Don't see that. Don't think at some point they'll end up as somebody for them will end up in Jane France Hospital.
And
3 doctors as prime ministers. 3 doctors as prime ministers.
And Doctor,
an indictment on us, Marisha. That's not an indictment on them.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is the air condition is an improvement. But I can say this. When you're going to AC a structure,
Agreed.
You also have to have certain things in place, like the type of doors they have at the facility, which I recommend to them that they replace those doors because the cool air is escaping, the moisture is coming in. You're going to end up with mold and all kind of other health hazard there. The source system that constantly backs up, the old incinerator, the morgue, as you say, is in the old area in the back with no extractor fan. It's so much stuff that when you speak to them, it's like they don't want to hear about improving. They just want you to say everything is okay.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and they paint this picture of things being transformed.
Yeah,
but politicians are not magicians,
and it's not so.
But we have this made up conversation where they come and they promise us magic, and we somehow expect magic. Even the both of us don't know. Why do we continue this? And I'm saying our present politicians have just joined in the theater and are continuing the same when these are persons I grew up with. I'm now older than PSs, older than ministers. That never happened before in my life. And these are, you know how much people in there I love? And Marisha, I could tell you, this is the worst I've ever been treated. And everybody in there I love. Everybody in there I have a past story with. I could go to my phone and just show you the tone, how it has changed. The frequency it has changed. With people who I love, people who I were their personal doctors.
It's bad. And bad is a good word. Okay. It's we're gonna pay the price eventually. And this is why I spoke out. And this is why I said, listen, I know it will be painful for some people. Enough people came and spoke to me, and they know. That is the whole thing. The workers know. Every one of them, management, everybody know what the issues are.
And the people in management now again suffered as a result of it.
Correct. So I am at peace knowing what I know. So now I can speak from a position of facts, and I can say to the general public and to the people, based on what I have observed, based on my experience, this government is not the answer. Unfortunately, I was hoping, because anyone would listen to my endorsement of Prime Minister Joe and that glorious day. That was the last video played the night before the election, and the 4th of August. I said he's the change agent. This is the person that we think, that I believe will make a difference. And it's disappointing.
He came from all the deepest and darkest places that we know people need saving from now. He knows of them. His mother went to prison for ganja. His mother was a Rasta. So to see him now on that throne with that title shows that anything is possible. So even again, when people trying to push me into politics, I don't need to enter. The fact that Terence Michael Drew is Prime Minister makes me know I could have been Prime Minister if I'd gone down that road. It makes any one of us who graduated in that 8 of us, that in that group of us that went down in 90, know that all of us have that capacity. It's just maybe the lacking of the will and purpose, but all of us know. At least that fires me up, so I don't need to prove that to myself or anybody else. But what I can do is be the guy I feel I've always been, be the guy I feel that he knows. Yeah.
Let me drop this final clip.
With respect to all of the documents that we have, I released a number of them during the budget debate. I think the one, I released one, I think it was the SIDF, because over $450 million passed through the SIDF. And I was to ask Mr. Bat again, because Mr. Bat, the only reason I'm saying that, because you have been here a very long time, and I know you were in the trenches for a long time, longer than others here, actually asking upfront questions. And I can say for sure that even when it comes to the SIDF, numbers were not released to you, because we found them in the audit. They were hidden. $450 million. I gave the numbers during the budget and showed people how much Harris inherited, how he spent the money, and never said one thing to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Where's the transparency in that? Where is the transparency that they're talking about? Nowhere to be found. So I agree with you. So we released that. We also released a document to show that they wanted the increase in salary. They put it in there actually, and were blaming us. We have the Development Bank audit. The Development Bank case is in the court. If the court is going to take, because the court has a process you have to admit, then my question, and I asked the AG recently, shouldn't I just release the audit for people to see? I'm really considering that, for people to see the shenanigans that went on in the Development Bank. And secondly, with respect to the SIDF deal, I asked them what type, was it on the, was it confidential and wasn't supposed to come out? I can't read the email because the email is not confidential at all, but the email has all the details of what the deal is supposed to be. There's no confidentiality in the email. And so that the people can see, but that's why I read the email from the past chairperson, and I made sure I did not call the name, because at the end of the day, you know what this was. And so that's a very important question. And I will have that discussion so that all of these deals and underhanded things that were made, the people can see it. The Christopher Harbour is a vexing matter. The matter of the SIDF money is a vexing matter. The Development Bank is a vexing matter. And with all of this money, and the people had no idea what was happening, even with the prison project, it's only since I came in, you all know how many shares. Because all that was being hidden. And with all of that, we inherited a deficit, a country without water, a country without reliable electricity, a country with an airport without jet bridges, a country that was really falling behind the rest of the OASIS and were the leaders. Think about it. No water, no electricity, our port falling apart, airport falling apart. Then the airport was recently decaying. And can you imagine those who had 7.5 years to fix the airport did nothing and talking about the airport leaking? Well, it must leak and do nothing. And we are now seeking to get the airport done. Because we are fixing it, but sometimes it reaches a point where you just need to put a different type of structure in place. You left us with a leaky hospital, no oxygen in the ambulance, and a minister who said ambulance expensive. These are the kind of things. You left us with no Bastia High School and $21 million spent. We had a program that you call the Poverty Alleviation Program, but you singled out who you wanted to help. You helped people when you want, and you didn't help them when it didn't suit you. But this government has brought minimum wage to affect all people. It has brought pension plan to affect all people. Whether they vote for Labour or not, they're entitled to these things. This is how we uplift a country. And basically, I'm saying that the grounds that they're standing on are shaky grounds. They're standing on sand. And the past administration was not transparent at all. Hundreds of millions of dollars missing, bad deals being made, and the people don't know. You know what first alerted us of how corrupt that administration was? When we heard about the gentleman from Germany and the UK, what his name was again? For the watch and the shoes. Verdi. Peter Verdi. And I'm asking, go to the British court. You will see the case. Peter Verdi's phone was tapped, and a conversation between him and Timothy Harris was heard, begging for shoes and watch and after party. I ain't gonna beg for no shoes and no watch and no after party. I'm gonna beg for advancement for this country. Come and invest. When you invest, everybody get it. I'm gonna get mine too because I'm a part of here. Let everybody get peace. No, and it's a serious matter. It's a very, very, very critical and serious matter. That is why they could not attract foreign direct investment. We have only been here for 2.5 years. We have attracted the largest marine operator in the world. We have attracted the largest pepper brand in the world in just 2.5 years. We have attracted governments to partner with us, such as the Saudi. We have attracted investments into geothermal, investments into water. I mean, when you look at the number of investments that we have had, it definitely shows that this government is on the right track to creating a sustainable island. So I say to our people, don't be fooled. Remember where you came from with that administration. Remember where you vote them out. Remember the lies and the corruption, the watch and the shoes and the after party. Remember that you were locked down, who in stay in, who out stay out. They locked you down when they did not have to lock you down in 2022 for election purposes. Remember those things, and they have not changed. The talk have changed because they want to get into office. But I'm saying today that this deal with Christopher Harbour that I uncovered and I shut down because it was the worst deal, period. And that is why question around it has to be asked. It have to be asked because these questions are asking, how can a government or entity or anybody make a deal like this? This just can't make sense, and then come to the people in a so-called national address lying to the people. Come on, we have the facts, and sometimes I think I don't have it. That is why they have to be exposed sometimes. And you see, they don't care about people because he knows. If he comes out like that, I will have to reveal the email from the past chair. So he's not going to be thinking about how do I protect a person who serves under me. He's trying to under the bus as well. And I'm here trying to protect her name because I think she served in her position. But this, of course, had to be run by the administration. Imagine people come to serve and you could tangle up the name in all sorts of things. And when you have the opportunity to say, look, you serve with me, as far as I can protect your name because you serve with good intention, I will. He doesn't care because he knows if he talks about it, I will come forward and reveal the information, including emails that were written in the interest or in the name of SIDF. But he doesn't care. And it is sad, just like the stem cell, just like the herpes.
Prime Minister, I want to stick with the Crystal Harbour sale. In your comments this morning, you spoke on several points with regards to the agreement. Now, having gone through the negotiations in which this $25 million was obtained on behalf of the outstanding debts, and understanding that Crystal Harbour now needs to get operationalized and to employ people and get productive, were there any components of the previous agreement? You spoke about original agreement. Are we talking about one original agreement or a second original agreement? Right. Because there was an agreement under the previous Labour administration headed by Dr. Denzel Douglas.
Upheld by the Timothy Harris administration.
And then Dr. Harris's administration came in.
Right.
So did they replace that original agreement?
No. I'm not talking about the original agreement. The original agreement is intact. I'm talking about the agreement with respect to SIDF and Crystal Harbour. That is the agreement I'm talking about.
I understand.
Right.
All right. So what responsibilities now is the existing Crystal Harbour, the revived Crystal Harbour, what will they be responsible for doing under that particular project?
Right. You mean the present one with Safe Harbour?
No, not Safe Harbour.
The original one?
You have the Safe Harbour for the Marina.
Yes.
Investors, and you still have the Crystal Harbour
operation. Right, the overall, of which we are party to it, right.
In which
yes.
Mr. Darby is still involved.
Yes.
So what is Crystal Harbour now responsible for? For example, there was, in the original agreement, we heard talk about a golf course. More. There was supposed to be 3 hotels built over there. We have only had 1 hotel. So I'm trying to figure out now, what is the commitment of Crystal Harbour to that project?
Right. So the commitment to Crystal Harbour remains intact. And from our end, we are going to insist that Crystal Harbour carries out what is supposed to be done. I'm very serious about that. That property has the potential to transform St. Kitts and Nevis significantly. If you were able to attract 2-3 hotels there with a golf course, one of the best marinas in the Caribbean. I mean, do you know the thousands of jobs that will be over there that can really take people off of STEP and all of these things so people can have some of these jobs? And I'm encouraging people on STEP to apply for these jobs so that they can get into more permanent jobs. That is why I'm doing this, so that people don't have to depend on STEP and these type of things. But I'm saying that original agreement to do these things, we are going to insist on them. As you can see in the deal, we say you can't have any deal here and money passing and you don't pay all your debts. All your debts must be paid. You must open back up the place. It has to be functional again. And so we are going to be pursuing that original agreement to develop Crystal Harbour has to be complied with. And we are pushing for that, and we'll continue to push for that.
Does Mr. Darby have the potential, Mr. Darby and his company, do they have the potential to actually deliver on what they originally said they would do?
Right. Now, that is a question that is a good question to be asked. This is how we are looking at it. Here are the original people. They have the property. We are having frequent discussions. Can you deliver what you say you can deliver? And they have to present to us if they can deliver what they say they can deliver or not. Because as I've said, a lot of people have come forward to entertain discussions, but there is an agreement. We'll respect the law. But one of the things, we'll also respect the law to the extent, can you fulfill the agreement that is there? It is for others to judge out there, whether they can deliver or not. We want the facts as to whether you can deliver or not. So that those discussions are being had as well.
One more question to clarity. So, in the event that Mr. Darby and his corporation cannot deliver, what can the government do then in terms of getting that project forward? Otherwise, we basically be held ransom to this particular investor.
Right. It's like any other investment agreement. If you can't fulfill your part, there have to be serious discussions around that. Right? That is what I would say. This part where we did with Safe Harbor and so forth is our efforts as well to make sure that Christopher Harbor can fulfill its mandate, what it's supposed to fulfill. You're asking, if they cannot fulfill, what will be the measure? Just like any other, can you fulfill what?
Yeah, Dr. Garfield.
I was just about to ask you to please save me.
It's painful. It's painful.
Because he used the word mandate there. 3 governments, well, not 3. 2 governments have received their mandate and lost their mandate in a time period of 20 years. And from what the Prime Minister is saying, it means that he has not made an assessment. So the Prime Minister, all 3 Prime Ministers have proven to us citizens that they're more owing to this gentleman, to this family, than they are to anybody in this nation. So we must ask ourselves then, why? So the question ain't all the other questions they're asking. The question is why Dr. Douglas, who did this deal, even after 5 years, 10 years, 30, 15 years, didn't review it. Amendments were made. They sat down several times with these people, and for some reason, this Darby family has continued to get a sweet deal, while we citizens are holding the shitty end of the stick. While these leaders come to us and ask for another mandate, while these leaders come to us and tout all the so-called accomplishments, in 20 years, this return to slavery, this return to colonialism in a modern day St. Kitts is justified, and they're asking us to applaud that. The Prime Minister has not answered any of Mr. Bad's questions. He hasn't provided any clarity or closure. And we must ask ourselves why this articulate, almost Obama-ish leader is acting like this in a round table that he called, that he knew what hard questions would come. So obviously he can answer these questions, but he refuses to. So why does Buddy Darby and these new persons, after 20 years, after not returning on the billions promised, why are we in this situation? And why do we still have the same leaders? Because we're repeating the same vicious cycles. We're looping the same time frames. It's just different leaders with different names, but the same agendas, the same core principles, none.
We the people are to blame.
Correct.
The Prime Minister claimed that he shut down the Christopher Harper agreement between the former Prime Minister Timothy Harris and do something spectacular. I am still trying to figure out what did he shut down, because what we get is nothing. It costs the country more than anything else. Just the same, he said he shut down the Christopher Harper. Why didn't he shut down the prison project? Who is a similar situation, if not worse?
So why is our Prime Minister continuously compromising himself?
That is what I'm trying to figure out, because the lies is what getting the...
which means this is a clear indicator to me, because I've been in emergency rooms where parents coming after abusing their children. I've been in the emergency room where wives are trying to convince me that it's not the husbands that swell up the eye. I've seen this. I've looked into the eyes of victims not being victims and trying to convince me that they're victors. And that's the look I see in my Prime Minister's eye. I'm wondering, what do they have on this man?
That's my concern. And that is why I was so patient with him.
Compromise himself like that, because this is somebody I love. And as a result, because he's at the lead, because he's head, he has everybody in that cabinet and everybody within that service. People who have known all my life compromising themselves.
Yeah, serious compromise. Because if you go back to the conversation, if you listen to the Prime Minister speak, this Christoph Harbour deal started in 2017, which he knows it was 2005. And whenever he's speaking to the journalists, he's going back to the original. But for whatever, he cannot refer to who was the original Prime Minister, which is Dr. Denzel Douglas. He refused to call Douglas' name.
He refused to call the agent name because at other times he said, I would call the agent and ask the agent to open up a case. He is where we need the AG and the DPP.
The AG and the DPP is missing in action. And this is where our people need to open up their eyes. Wake up, my people.
In fact, coming out of that, the only person that my Prime Minister seemingly has issues with was Mr. Bat. He mentioned Mr. Bat 3 times before. He's been in it because he was upset that Mr. Bat would challenge him with them questions. And I'm saying the whole paper was about those same questions. And he's a public servant.
And it's unfortunate that our journalists are so, I don't want to disrespect them and call them any names, but it's amazing that our journalists are not like the journalists in the outer world where when a question is asked and not answered, they would support their partner and continue to demand straight answers. These journalists just pass over and go to the next question. So you never get a straight answer out of this Prime Minister.
Mr. Marsha, I used to like to chastise, right? But I've understood just this year why you see a lot of that behavior. Because I thought I was big and bad. I thought that nobody would mess with me. And from the time I just wouldn't allow. And it wasn't even not about allowance. I just realized I was being marginalized because people knew what I would stand for. So it was a good feeling with a hurt. Because they weren't inviting me into rooms because they know I wouldn't stand for it. But at the same time, I was being marginalized. I couldn't be paid for the position I'm in. I want to choose autonomy and liberty. I still am waiting for some information from persons I went to school with, persons for a fight for. When they were being victimized and changed into and placed in other departments, those were the persons that stood up for and called out for and come off the fence and champion for. And these are the same persons that can't give me consistent information. These are the same persons who are trying to slight my gratuity. As somebody they know to be hardworking, as somebody they used to call upon. That's the level of compromise I'm seeing in good people or supposed good people because of this team think. Because if, no, not my party, no, not my Prime Minister. It's 15 years I've been on Facebook. And you know how much times people told me it was undoctored, like unprofessional, why don't come off of Facebook? And those posts, you know what they know? They reanimate me. And remind me, no, you ain't going crazy. The same vicious cycles are repeating, Garfield. That's why you don't feel comfortable. That's why you're not going in certain rooms. Because when you stand up, when you go against the status quo, your own family and friends will try to convince you that you're crazy.
Yeah.
Your own family and friends will tell you what you're giving up. But my good uncle Zook told me that, and he put my whole body at ease. He was like, doctors don't go up East Street. Doctors think about title and fancy rides and being different and better than people. So by you not doing that, you are showing the example of all those who don't. And you're reminding them of what they're supposed to be. That's the problem right there now, Gary, because he don't call me anything but Gary. That's the problem right there. And he made me in that moment contemplate, yeah. I'm being chastised just for being me. That's how I was brought up. I'm a product of people giving back. I'm a product of people reaching out. I'm a product of synergies being created because we didn't follow the status quo. That's what I'm a product of. So as a product of that, that's why I continue to do, because that's all I know. That's all I saw my mother do. And again, just like Sam, that's why I could understand Sam. She was that to a fault. She was a people pleaser, a people healer, used up all her energy for everybody except herself. So that was also my lesson, not to repeat the mistakes of my father, nor my mother. Because as parents, that's what we serve as the example.
Welcome to my world. I told you that was my final clip, but I have to play this one. And why I have to play this one, I'm not even going to comment on that clip. I'm going to do it in a future broadcast because there's so much to discuss on that particular clip that I'll leave it for another time. But
you know, you and I have never discussed shot and calypso. There's a lot of things we haven't discussed.
We're gonna get there one day. We're gonna
get there. This program must be season 2 in the camp. It's a program where we're just talking about the negativities, you know.
No. Yeah, I give you everything.
The program seasoned with it.
I give you everything. Yeah. Now, the situation here is a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, a citizen sent me some information that really took my heart about some health issues they were dealing with. And I spoke about it on my podcast. And before I could finish the podcast, I received a message telling me to stop speaking about the matter because they receive a call and the victimization they're scared of and stuff like that. But I went back into my archives and found a campaign promise of the Prime Minister. And I want you to listen to this. Because I could ask the Prime Minister point blank, you know, you made this promise. I was a part of your campaign. I was one of your main support. Because when they was fighting you down not to become leader of the Labour Party, and there was the split, I was there leading the charge to ensure that you become the leader. So whatever the Prime Minister was saying sound good to me, sound positive, and I pushed that mission. Now, I would like to ask the Prime Minister, how many adults has he gone into the Treasury as he promised? And make sure he used the people's money to save the lives of these people. I can count how many bodies that has gone. There's a body count. So let's take a listen to this clip.
But I want to say tonight that under St. Kitts Nevis government, led by myself as the Prime Minister, supported by my team, we will introduce universal health care for everybody here in St. Kitts and Nevis. All of you, you deserve it and you will get it. That is what the $1.5 billion was for. So they don't walk around with any sponsorship. But I want to take it further and to say to all of those who are walking with sponsorship, that is the second day you elect me as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, I will take the money out of the Treasury and send you overseas to get the treatment that you deserve.
Now, that speech that the Prime Minister will take the money out of the Treasury and send citizens overseas to get the treatment that they deserve speaks volume. Not that they need, that they deserve. So if you want to comment on that, you can open your mic and
Well, the good doctor was trained in Cuba. Universal health care, universal education, those are basic human rights. The Cubans feel as though basic human rights, and those are afforded to everyone. So if you want to become a doctor, a neurosurgeon, once you have that ability, you will become it in Cuba. He's off that. So again, like even in looking at him now, I brought him a vision. It's not even like I just see him as a separate entity because I know what he's off and what he's from. So the things that he's promising and saying and doing and the things that he's not doing are evident that there's some other things at play. And it's extremely saddening, extremely saddening. I could tell you nothing else. And the fact that the team behind him supporting this attitude and behavior, yeah, it means that it's us more than him.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to drop some ads and then I will give you an opportunity to do your closing. I'm going to drop the closing song and thank you again for taking the time out 2 evenings in a row to come and speak to the DJ. But we're going to have more conversation. Trust me, we have not scratched the surface. We have not scratched the surface. So stand by. Let me go across to my boy Carbo there in Nevis and hear what he has to tell the good people of the world.
Cabos, located at Fountain Village in Nevis, is the go-to spot for your Saturday treat. Tantalize your taste buds with his delectable Cabos Delicacy Goat Water. Or, if you prefer some soul food, then Cabos Fungi and Fish is definitely the way to go. Call ahead and reserve at 869-663-9694. Then make your way over to Cabos and enjoy the vibrant atmosphere while you savor your delicacy. Cabos, we are not changing, we are only improving.
Food all over, food all over, you got the food all over.
Yes, you heard it right. Brother Carbo has the food all over Nevis there. And you can also get your special orders from Carbo. If you have any special event, you can always reach out to Carbo, let him know DJ Marish will send you. Now let's hear what Sister Carmen of Carmen Caterers have to tell us this evening.
Girl Sandra, you know where you can find nice fresh local food 7 days a week, one provision and all kind of thing. Girl, where? Right down there by Shellings, by Carmen Catering Services. Girl, she opposite the bus stop. Girl, and she also cater for weddings, parties, anything you want to cater for, funeral and all. Girl, and trust me, you're gonna enjoy the food. And she also selling bites and Sundays. Opposite the car shop, right down the main road. Girl, you could call 665-1494 or 663-6005 to order your food or go and pick up your food. Girl, the food will be finger licking and you get your money worth. You ain't want nothing better than that.
That's correct, Sister Carmen. They're daily, Monday to Saturday from midday until 5 at Shirlane, just opposite the West Ferry Terminal there, downtown Bastia. And on a Sunday, she's there in Boyd Village, opposite the car shop. Check her out. Carmen food got very fast on a Sunday, so make sure you're there as early as possible. She's there from 12 to 5. When you go there early, you have your choices. If not, you're going to take what is left. Let Sister Carmen or DJ Marisha send you. Now let's take a quick listen to my boy there, Brother Daniel out of Nevis, giving you some strategies for business.
Welcome to Strategies for Business Success, right here on 2020visionradio.com and on 102.1 FM with business development advocate Daniel Atherton. Each week, Danny will build on a foundation to ensure your success in business. Being in business can be daunting, and Strategies for Business Success can help you avoid the pitfalls. Join Danny right here on 2020visionradio.com, on 102.1 FM, and on your other social media platforms every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. That's right, Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. The time and place for your business dreams to come true.
Yes, that's Brother Danny Day over there in Nevis. Also check Danny there at the Hydro Farm. Check my boy Banky as well. And my boy there, Brother Mackie Truss. 3 favorite farmers there in Nevis. Let's take a listen here to my boy, Brother Coco.
Attention vehicle owners and operators. Your driving experience just got better. Yes, you heard it right. 3A's Auto Services, located Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts, where you have tire sales and installation, vehicular repairs, and other services. You can reach Mr. Aston Corker at 869-664-2204, 869-667-2071, or 869-665-0605. Yes, 3A's Auto Services, located at Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts, just above the Brimstone Hills Fortress. And you can reach out to them for emergency roadside services. Remember, Brother Aston Coker is available 24/7. Just call those numbers.
I just want to drive the motor car. I just want to drive the motor car. Drive it. Drive it. Give me one. Hey. Give me two. Hey, hey.
Yes, you can check Brother Aston Coker there. Let him know that DJ Mauricio sent you. And you can let him know that he is located right there on Main Street, Sandy Point, just above the Brimstone Hill Road there, the Brimstone Hill Fortress. So check out Brother Austin and let him know DJ Mauricio sent you. Now let's take a quick listen to my boy there, Brother Gijo's, having some good stuff there at the Gijo's night spot there, Station Street, Old Road.
Check out Gijo's Bar at Station Street, Old Road, this and every Saturday for the best bullfoot, goat water, conchs, bigfoot, and cook.
Cause we don't know.
Check out Gijo's Bar at Station Street, Old Road, this and every Saturday for the best bullfoot, goat water, conchs, bigfoot, and cook up. If you're in the mood, we also serve garlic bread, fried fish, green salad, and burgers. So remember, the place to be is at Gijo's Bar, where you can enjoy Ludo games, snake and ladder, dominoes, listen to music all night, and sip on some cold drinks. Yes, it's all happening this and every Saturday at Gijo's Bar, Station Street, Old Road.
Yes, you heard it right. You check out my boy Gijo's there at Station Street, Old Road, St. Kitts. You get some nice goat water cook up, some lovely attitudes there, lovely bartenders, cool drinks. Just let Gijo know that DJ Mauricio sent you.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're listening to DJ Mauricio, playing you the best in Caribbean music.
You got that.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're locked into DJ Mauricio. Keep it locked.
Right there. And my good people, we drop my final ad here before I go back to my boy, Dr. Alexander, to give his closing.
Wednesday evenings are heating up. Log on to DJ Mauricio's Facebook Live broadcast every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. It's a frank and candid exploration into the social, cultural, political, and economic issues affecting our federation. And just in case you missed it, you can also catch the broadcast on his YouTube channel, DJ Mauricio. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube and smash that bell. You will be notified whenever he goes live. DJ Mauricio, every Wednesday evening, Facebook 6 to 8 p.m. or thereafter on his YouTube channel, DJ Mauricio. Log on.
Yes, Doctor, you're closing. I realize that your Prime Minister and his team has head out again, spending some monies that they say we don't have, huh? Tap your screen, open your mic there.
Yeah. I think people would see this, hear me in the last couple weeks, maybe months, and wonder why I'm so passionate. Because really and truly, to call it hurt, I don't know what it is. At some point in the future, I'll be able to find words for it. But I was born in 1977. It's just before Bradshaw Southwell's death, and before this whole upheaval. Grew up in the 80s. And when the Cuban scholarships were available, I learned then that they were always available. That for some reason, that government, that coalition government of NRP-PAM refused. But it was allowed, and I was allowed to go. And we had so much difficulties. It was almost like a rebellion each time, fighting for and clawing our way to getting a stipend and to be access loans at Development Bank. coming home, trying to get rotations at the JNF hospital, being sent off into the unknown as a group to clock out and then come back in 2005 and be met by Mrs. Kanda and Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and to be placed through hell during that period, all through that period, to then hear that these were the exemptions and the allowances to already wealthy white men from foreign hurts. And then to stay in my St. Kitts and have to face my village and just try to stand up and just be myself and be stopped by police and be harassed for tint and for all indiscriminate indiscretions, both in St. Kitts and Nevis, just for being that person who cars all wrong. To drive on that same Peninsula Road, I want people to remember when Christopher Harbour was first opened, it was only to a few, not even Kittitians, repeating the traumas of the past. I went to Basti High School where there was a tennis court called South Africa, and we know the reasons why. Even at what we call the Factory Social Center, when we gained access to that before, who it belonged to, who partied there, when we were allowed there. How valued were the tickets? I wasn't around them times. I'm talking of what I heard my parents say. How valuable were the tickets to just show up there? Why are some spaces sacred and worthy and valuable and other places not? These are the questions I've been asking since I was a little boy. And even now, the biggest and brightest amongst us, they can't give me the answer, but they're showing me. So to know I was harassed for all them years by my own people, because people think of boasting. And the real boasting people driving tinted, fully tinted, would be received up at Kaya and the VIP lounge with whatever coke or drugs they have. Persons imported entire cars in containers because they had duty-free concession. So to grow up and to enter into rooms and get this type of information that we've always been eating ourselves like cannibals. We like to call the Caribs cannibals, they were never cannibals. They really should have eaten the Europeans, but they didn't. Eating ourselves and calling that culture. Seeing our biggest and brightest not be the biggest and brightest. Men being men until they're asked to be. Until this day, those people want me to applaud them? Never. That's not how I grew up. I want to thank publicly Michelina, because she's the first person in these rooms, in them same political rooms, because I was in the deep, So I know about the escrow for elections and how money is moved and money is received. I was in the inner belly. So I want those persons who even thinking of debating to understand I was there with them, protecting them, understanding them. So I know how that happens. Yeah.
Thank you, brother Dr. Garfield Alexander. I'm going to drop my closing song in a bit. This one is by one of our legend, the late, great King Arrow. The song is entitled Arise. And the question is, will you stand up and see your country dying and never lend a helping hand? And I know you will lend a helping hand.
Would I put in a request as well, DJ Marisha?
I hope I could accommodate it.
Good Shepherd. I just want to play the Good Shepherd because I think that is the greatest calypso to ever.
That would fit you well, but once I drop the closing, I cannot. But I promise you, when you come back, I will have it lined up for you.
It's a request. It doesn't have to be for now.
Okay, well, definitely I will. So, my good people, as I close off this evening with Dr. Garfield Alexander, very interesting conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation with Dr. Alexander. And our country is in good hands with citizens such as this young man. So I invite you to take a listen to this track. The music is actually very sweet, very good, lovely horn sections.
Very Kitty too.
Would you stand up and see your country dying and never lend a helping hand? Would you see your children's future dwindling, creating much disillusion? Or would we watch on idly, disregarding our self-sufficiency? Maladministration, wrecking all and no. I said no, not at all. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct our mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We'll move on together, hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours. Would you assist building a wall so massive or a bridge? Don't care how small, as one tends to divide our people, the other unite us all. Unambitious men just cannot be a part of this community. Displaying selfishness, a total lack of interest. No, I said no, not at all. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct our mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We'll move on together, hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours. building a brand new nation. We'll move on together hand in hand. So rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours.
Yes, my good people, and that's it for this evening. Thursday, June 5th, 2025. I was rapping with my boy there, Brother Dr. Garfield Alexander. And Brother Alexander, question for you. Open your mic, please. Does DJ Marisha have permission to post this conversation on my social media pages?
Yeah, man.
All right, copy. So right after this, it'll be loaded up to YouTube and Facebook. Thanks again for coming out, and I look forward to our follow-up conversations in the future. God blessings on you.
Yeah, man. Big up. And keep the faith in the DJ Marisha.
Yeah,
and
man.
I don't want you to feel guilty for what has transpired. This needed to happen for all of us to learn, because we also have ourselves to be blamed, to be easily fooled. We have to look out for the red flags. That's you and I lesson.
Thank you, sir.
Look for the red flags.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.